weirdo or do you want itchy?
If you don't really know what's going on, there's a show that also doesn't know what's going on. Call that radio TV. You call that radio. Call that radio TV. You call that radio TV.
As you call that radio TV tonight, we've got Gonzo Division, new Hellfire Club, journalist, writer, chef, and other things. Chris Herron is in the house. How's everybody doing? Just before we start the show, I would just like to give a shout to Joy France, who has agreed to come on the show tomorrow night. Buzzing for that. She decided at the age of 63 that she was going to retire from being a teacher and become a battle rapper. And she did just that. From retired school teacher to international battle rapper, Joy France. She's had amazing TED Talks and there's a film about her and stuff as well. So go and check that out. On Saturday night we have Amelia Baylor in the house, live from Capture Works. Sunday we've got Creative Martyrs live from Capture Works as well. And if you've not seen it yet, go to the YouTube channel and watch the Gyro Babies Unplugged. It would be better with a band, let's be honest, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. If you're watching this on Facebook, go and watch it on YouTube instead because it looks better and it sounds better. Go to YouTube or go to Twitch. And if you're on Twitch and you've got Amazon Prime, then you can subscribe for free. But Jeff Bezos has got to give us $2.50 a month. So just hit the subscribe button and link it to your Amazon Prime account if you can. What else I've got to say? Thanks to the patrons. We don't get any sponsorship. We don't get any funding. Powered completely by patrons. We've done 150 shows since March. You can watch most of them on YouTube, apart for the ones that were removed for cheeky behaviour. And yeah, I think that's about it. This should be a good one. I'm looking forward to it. I've not spoke to Chris for a while. He should be bringing some interesting theories and some facts that you will not be aware of. So I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, let's do it. I should call that radio TV.
You call that radio. You call that radio TV. No. You call that radio TV.
This is You Call That Radio.
This is You Call That Radio TV.
Brothers and sisters, may the peace that can only come from the one God be upon you. We are here to tell the people that we hear you. One God will not allow us as people of conscience to lose our morale.
Powered by our patrons. Oh, I should say one thing before I bring Chris on. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see that. Oh, I'll go get Chris on. Chris, can you hear me?
Hello.
How's it going, man?
Hi. How's everyone?
Could you see that? Could you see the...
Yeah. Death before employment, Doghouse.
Yes. The amazing Doghouse. That's one of the lyrics to a Sick Note song, whose Doghouse was the lead singer of. It's good to see you, Chris. I have today got either the neighbour or the postman's bumped my alcohol-free beer that I've been looking forward to. Apparently, it's like good beer. It's almost like the real deal. So I haven't drank all month, and I was looking forward to that tonight. but it's bumped. So I have had this lying about for ages. This is a Cabaret Sauvignon. I don't know if that how you say that, but it's 0%. It's 0%, and worryingly, it's not just alcohol free. It's alcohol removed. So that suggested that this was a bottle of wine, no longer. So I'll be tasting that tonight. Hey Chris, you're not, you used to be a connoisseur of alcohol, and not so much these days.
No, not anymore. I definitely was a connoisseur of alcohol, though. I had a 6,650 day bender, and I wore out the soles of my party boots eventually. When I turned 30, I started getting hangovers. I had never had a hangover before the age of 30. So there was no deterrent, nothing to stop me getting blind drunk all the time. I could just wake up and continue. And I did. And I read a science report that said the hangover gene evolved to stop humans from drinking themselves to death. Like if we didn't have that gene that gave us a hangover, half the species would be dead from alcoholism. I can believe that because I would probably be dead from alcoholism in the next 10 years if I continued at the rate I was going.
No, it's interesting. My stepdad, he swears that he's never had a hangover in his life. In fact, he's actually got quite a smug thing he says when I'm like, you don't have a hangover even today? And he'll be like, no, when you've got a hangover, that's when you know it's time to stop drinking, to quit.
Yeah.
He says he would quit drink. He doesn't understand why you would drink if you did get hangovers. But that's very easy to say if you've got, which I would say is a superpower. Would you? Is it hyperbolic to say that this is a superpower that you can, and he can put it away, man? I'm talking about this is a hardcore man who can mix his drinks. You know, you can have a whiskey, you can have a port, beers, wine, the lot, and wake up feeling absolutely fine the next day.
Yeah, same as me. I was smug about it too. Like no matter what I drank, no matter how much I drank, I just would not get a hangover.
And was this also, was this just alcohol or was this for other substances as well?
No, I got come downs. I would get come downs from cocaine and E and stuff, but just not hangovers. If I drank, I would wake up. I actually woke up feeling great after a night's drinking. I don't know, it's weird. We all
so
grow
what was
up.
it like? Can you put it? Can you remember? Well, obviously you probably will. Then you're 30 years old. And one day you just wake up with a hangover. Can you remember that?
Well, it was mild at first. It got progressively worse. Like, we grew up in a culture in Ireland and Scotland and England, a very alcohol-orientated culture. The level of a man in these countries is how much he can drink. And I come from a long line of alcoholics, so it's genetic tolerance to alcohol. The only person that ever drank me under the table was Miro, and he's Russian. And he didn't just drink me under the table; he drank me off the face of the planet. Like, wow.
The Russian way though is it not like what they do differently is they actually eat food together as well as part of their culture. So from Russians that I've drank with before and stuff, and like you said, they can definitely put it away. But it's like they will like meet together and eat together, which is just quite unusual in Scotland. It's like, do you want to meet for food or having a dinner party? It's like, ooh, a dinner party. but it's quite a normal thing in other cultures.
Well, that's the other thing. We've got a really fucked up culture when it comes to drink. Alcohol should be available 24 hours a day. When you limit it the way they do, it means everyone leaves the club at the same time. Pissed, and not only that, they've all nicked 20 sambucas on the way out because there's no more booze coming, and they all leave all at the same time and they all congregate on the streets, and it causes mayhem. Whereas in Europe, there's no such rush. You can just sit and chill and drink at your own pace, and it's a different culture. They introduce their children to drink at a very young age, but with a meal. And obviously, as you know, in this country, it's the eating's cheating, and I did used to avoid. Yeah, you used to avoid eating. It does, it sobers you up. It's a waste of alcohol. Well, when you're younger, it's a waste of alcohol because you want to be as wrecked as possible. But nowadays, if I do still drink, I'm not teetotal, but I've went from drinking every day to drinking once a month. And even then, moderate. And even then, only red wine or champagne. So I'll try and avoid and I'll happily eat with it. And it's good. It's a big mistake. I think the mistake I've made, times when I've got blackout drunk and I've been like a real dickhead, done terrible things I've regretted, it's been because I haven't ate. It's the times you drink a lot on an empty stomach, isn't it? It does something, it drives you mental.
Going back to the different culture thing, now I went abroad when I was 16, so I went from the sort of Scottish drinking culture of, you've got to catch the shop, all that stuff. And obviously, just everything you mentioned, the shop shut at 10, or even in a nightclub, or the pub shutting, it's like there is a time, it's like, all right, well, the pub shuts in 10 minutes, we're not going to get any alcohol. There's maybe a chance to dial a bevy if you know the right person, but pretty much it's unlikely, or it's going to be very expensive. So people do things like they buy the 2 drinks, or they buy the 2 pints and a shot with 15 minutes, 2 shots with 50 minutes to go. Ridiculous things like that. And when I was abroad, it was a totally different vibe. So you would, after the nightclub, everyone would go to the kebab house or whatever it was, like a kind of restaurant. But you could sit in, and what I noticed I would do is I would have a fresh orange with my kebab, just because that seemed like the nice and refreshing, knowing full well that I could go back to they sold beer in the fridge. Every shop sells beer in the fridge next to the Sprite or whatever. But what I do think, so I noticed that for me, it was definitely like I would relax, and obviously there's no, all the pubs and the clubs shut at different times. If someone's still wanting to get served, they stay there. So there's not a big rush for the taxi queue, there's none of that stuff. Everyone goes home at their own pace. However, it's perfect, it should be the way it should be in Scotland. However, what do you think would happen if just they decided tomorrow, Scotland, you can drink for 24 hours. Your bars, your clubs, your off licenses, you can just do what you want. I mean, eventually, would it be... I would imagine it'd be a positive thing eventually, but are we talking about, would we lose a generation, or would we lose 2 years or 3 years? Because this is a society. As a society, we're not trained for that. Would it just be one big party for a week, a month, a year, or a generation?
Well, it definitely would be a big party, and Scottish people, there's no telling how long they could go on a bender for. But as you say, it would be a positive thing in the end. What they would have to do, I think, is push it out. Right, now we're adding an hour, rather than just bang, 24. Implement it incrementally, it's like in the west of Scotland, you're not allowed to drink in public. But in Edinburgh you can, in the north of Scotland you can, in England you can, I think in Ireland you can, presumably.
Yeah, well, I think the idea, I think my understanding is that it's not actually legal to drink anywhere in Scotland. My understanding is that in Edinburgh they just turn a blind eye to it because of it's embarrassing for tourism. People are coming from all around the world. It's an expensive city. People are wanting to have a glass of wine while they look at the pretty castle. And to try and explain to a tourist that you can't do that, they're like, why would that? So, but obviously they can't just let tourists away with it. They've got to let the locals away with it as well, because then there'd be issues as well. So it's just turning a blind eye to it. There's also other parts of Scotland that just let you drink outside because they don't care. The local Bobby's not going to fucking piss off all the neighbours that he's got to live with by shouting at someone for having a can of beer outside. But I don't think it is actually legal anywhere else. Maybe someone can correct me on that. Maybe any fact checkers out there. In fact, who is out there? We've got Petra. Hello, Petra. We've got Colette. Hi, babes, love baby doll. Hello, Colette. We've got Nicolette in the house. Good to see you. Moan the Bobs. Yes, sick note. Yes, it is in the house. We've got Alan here. How's things? Things are well, Alan. I hope you're well. Sweet Sugar Cube and Petra, I don't get hangovers. I get completely poisoned. Do you know, there was actually a thing that I read. There was an article saying that hangovers get easier the older you get, or your body gets better at handling them. And that's just absolute nonsense, man. I've never heard anyone say that, but some sort of experiment said that.
Well, when I turned 30 and I started getting hangovers, they were very mild at first. It was like, I can fine, I can deal with that. But from 30 to maybe about now I'm 36, so the last 6 years, worse and worse and worse. And it's like the law of averages balancing out. I didn't have a hangover after drinking for 17 years. And then it's like I got 17 years worth of hangovers all thrown into one. If I drink...
I've been getting all the way through, but just, I will agree with the... I mean, that's probably why I've not drank for the last 2 months, is because the hangovers were getting progressively worse, and I really was struggling to justify it, because, you know, if you're having a gig, or you're at a festival, or you're at a proper night out, you can go, it's worth it. You know, a good night for a bit of pain the next day, but you can't really justify it when there is no fun. Fun doesn't exist right now.
No, and well, that's the other thing. It was getting to the point where 3 days hungover, spewing my guts up, existential dread, fear, all the crap that comes with a hangover for, you know, one night of getting blackout drunk just wasn't worth it anymore. And there was a transitional period. I'm very much in love with alcohol. I've always been so enamored by it. The sound of it, the taste of it, the way it makes you feel, like really in love with it. And I still felt that way. So it was kind of like as if my girlfriend had cheated on me. You know, it turned on me, and I still loved it, and I still wanted to drink, but I just couldn't. And then after a while, I just stopped being addicted to it, and I'm not even bothered now. I don't even want to now. I haven't been out at gigs and stuff, but like I say, I'm not teetotal. I'll still have a glass of wine or a glass of champagne.
So why have you stopped going to gigs? Is it because you don't want to be in that environment, or what's the story behind that?
No, I just been through the lockdown and everything.
All right, did you not stop? So you're still going to gigs as normal before that? Because I hadn't really seen you for a while just before lockdown as well.
Well, I had kind of stopped going to gigs. I was dealing with like going from being an alcoholic to being off a drug I'd depended on for 17 years. So it was hell for a few months. I think my kidneys were damaged as well because I was constantly getting pain in my kidneys and spewing. So it wasn't like a deliberate decision not to go to gigs, but maybe a subconscious one, yeah. Plus, I've been to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of gigs, and I joined the Bob Trotters. Shout out to Nico and the Bob Trotters. And so I was just playing gigs rather than going to them for a while, I suppose, and concentrating on that end of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got the Harlem Bob Trotters. We've got Nico in the comments. How would you describe the Harlem Bob Trotters to anyone who's curious about, you know, if someone says to you, how would you describe the Harlem Bob Trotters? How would you describe the Harlem Bob Trotters?
I would describe the Harlem Bob Trotters as the world's first penis-themed band. Nico's took her love for penises, the Bob, and channeled it into a band. And we play a whole mix of genres. We're like rock and roll, metal, punk, all sorts, Celtic. But it's always the Bob, always sex and bobs. And I would describe a Harlem Bob Trotters gig as like a Sex Pistols gig meets an Ann Summers party. It really is a lot more penises in one place than you'll ever see in one night. Not necessarily real penises, by the way, just lots of fake penises flying
I like
about.
you saying not necessarily real penises, like you're not ruling out the real penises either. We've got Will Johnston.
Hey.
Mark, that post is getting a proper doing. I've got him down here in the basement. How about an interactive beating? To slap him in the chops, press 1. To pull his teeth out, press 2. No, do you know what? If it's the neighbour, I'm raging. If it's the postman, then you know postmen have been through a lot. It's a tough year for postmen, and I've got nothing but respect for postmen. So if he has stole it, I hope he doesn't mind non-alcoholic beer though, because I'd imagine whoever has stole the beer is going to be a bit disappointed. Do you know that way? Because if you think you've got yourself a case of beer, and then that. Ali Grant says years of practice and I still can't drink, pure poisoned. We've got me too, can't get. Colette says, I'm 50, still not a hangover yet, bro. Well, that's because you obviously don't drink enough, Colette. You're obviously not drinking enough. And Petra says, ever get the feeling things are geared towards killing the drinking culture? What, the whole thing? This whole thing? Do you think that's what it is?
I think it's geared towards the Tories kind of want like a yuppie bar culture, don't they? They don't want nightclubs. They don't want seedy underground punk gig venues. They want like Yates Wine Lodge and all that. And it is kind of gearing towards that a little bit, I suppose, yeah. What you should do, Mark, is you should start drinking traditional beer. Beer traditionally, up until 1555, contained magic mushrooms. And the beer was really a side note to the magic mushrooms. The beer was the vehicle through which people imbibed magic mushrooms. And in 1555, a king ruled that there would be no more magic mushrooms in the beer. And so they got rid of that ingredient. Now you have the psychedelic less beer that we drink today.
20 minutes it took till we got into psychedelics. What took you so
beer.
long, man?
You mentioned
but yeah,
beer.
no, that's true. I started bringing up the drug culture. We got so I was actually listening to a guy talking about that. It was on a Joe Rogan podcast, and it was a guy talking about. You might be able to help me out here. It was about the ancients. Drugs of the ancients taking drugs.
Soma. There's soma, which nobody actually knows what it is, because the only descriptions of it are how it makes you feel and as a milky substance. So some people theorize it's heroin, like opium. Some people theorize it's a psychedelic. It could be a drug. We don't even know. But they were certainly writing about their psychedelics. All the ancient cultures worshipped magic mushroom. Have you heard of the stoned ape theory by Terence McKenna?
I have, but on you go, just for the listeners, the viewers who might not have.
Right, well, you've got the evolution of man, which is millions of years in the grass plains fucking about with tools, using the same tools for millions and millions of years. And then suddenly, and nobody can explain how, our minds just blossomed open and we started doing art. And we started having all these philosophical thoughts, and we started coming up with religions, and we started coming up with all that kind of shit. Now, Terence McKenna has posited, and it's very viable, when your magic mushrooms are coprophilic, which means they love shit. So they grow around shit, fertilizer, cowpats. And at exactly the time that we started to domesticate cattle, like sheep and horses and cows, we were completely surrounded by them, completely surrounded by cowpats, and nobody can tell me that we weren't eating the mushrooms that were growing out of those cowpats, because I guarantee we were, because we were foraging creatures. And so they reckon if you've done psychedelics, you'll know that it forces your mind open. It opens all these neural pathways in your head and gives you meet God and you see the universe and you step out of your meat suit and into the collective consciousness. So if a primitive half man, half monkey Neanderthal was to pick up a handful of magic mushrooms and eat them and experience that, it explains perfectly how we started coming up with ideas of art, religion. Most religious experiences can be traced back to either magic mushrooms or DMT. Moses in the burning bush, when he spoke to God, he's supposed to have been on DMT. And
I think a lot of the Bible there were a lot of them were on it, I think, in the Bible.
Yeah, especially if you read St. Enoch's. The Bible has many, many different scriptures. All
St. Enoch?
St.
Enoch? And
St. Enoch,
fucking hell. I didn't know St. Enoch was... I just, thought of the subway.
Well, St. Enoch was left out of the Bible as a collection. Like, they took all the Bible scriptures and they put them into the book we know as the Bible, but they left out St. Enoch. And the reason they left out St. Enoch is because, you can go and read it, it's psychedelic as fuck. It's all talking about aliens. It's talking about riding around in spaceships and all sorts of wacky shit. It's definitely the best book related to the Bible to read. But it is actually...
And arguably the best underground, arguably the best subway station as well.
Yeah, I've thought about that actually. St. Enoch Centre must have some connection, obviously, to St. Enoch. I don't know what, I'd need to look into it. But yeah, definitely.
And it's a well-attended subway station, unlike West Street, which I've not really seen many people getting on, if anyone. And then we've
So,
got some
say-
comments coming in here. Jay Coleman says, I'm here and all the Bob Fairy. We've got Jane Janey in the house. How you doing, Jane? Stacey. I'm the same with the hangover thing, Chris and Mark. It's shite, innit? It's shite. It seems like our best days are behind us with the booze. But, like Chris said, maybe mushrooms are the answer. Petra says, how can we cultivate magic mushrooms? It's too much of a crapshoot going out hunting. Chris?
I'll tell you what, it's not a crapshoot anymore because you can get an app that'll identify the mushroom for you. You can get apps now that identify plants, fungi. So you just point your camera at the mushroom and it'll tell you. Plus, I mean, you've just got to know. It's got a nipple, it's got a certain colour, it's got a certain look. And once you know, and you just have to learn that information and go out foraging. But also, if you do want to grow them, it's very easily done. You get a packet of Uncle Ben's rice, you buy some magic mushroom spores off the internet, you inject that packet of rice with the mushroom spores, and away you go. The mycelium will grow in the rice, and eventually you'll be able to cultivate magic mushrooms, any kind you like, from all over the world. Although it is still technically illegal. It wasn't illegal when I was younger. It was still legal then, and you could get stopped by the police.
The bars sold them. It was legit. It was all legit.
Yeah. Festivals. You used to be able to buy magic mushroom stalls at My first ever trip was at Leeds Festival. I went up to the mushroom stall and bought some truffles and ate them all and had a great time. So yeah, very easy to grow. Like mushrooms will grow under almost any circumstances in almost anything. Mushroom spores are intergalactic. They travel through space, seeding planets, which is why I often say mushrooms are like our gods, because they created us. They created the environment in which we live. Mushrooms and plants have a symbiotic relationship where the mushroom nourishes the plant, and with that nourishment, the plant photosynthesizes. And without that, we wouldn't be here. Plants wouldn't be here. It would be a dead earth. So the mycelium, the mushrooms, have literally come down from outer space and seeded this planet. And who knows what other planets out there in the universe they've seeded.
And
it's amazing.
Have you seen Fantastic Fungi? The Paul Stamets movie?
Yeah. Well, I've not watched his movie, but I've watched all his lectures and podcasts and stuff. So as good as, yeah.
It's not really as good as. It's not as good as. You can't just say, "Oh, have you seen the film?" The answer's no. You can't say, "Well, I think I know what it's about because I've seen his other stuff." But you probably got. Because it's not just him. It's not just him. It's all his wee pals. He's got mushroom pals for all over the world, all talking about it. They might. I'm sure there'll be something new about it. I know you know your mushrooms, but I think that's why I'm surprised you've not watched it.
No, I was aware of it and I was waiting for it to come out. I just didn't know it had come out yet. Paul Stamets was interviewed on Al Jazeera the other day, and I thought, fucking hell, that's good. Because they're talking to him about psychedelics and magic mushrooms on Al Jazeera, which is, mainstream media. This is pretty cool. He's got a hat made out of mushrooms. There's a type of mushroom you can fashion clothes out of, canoes, anything you want.
I've seen the canoe. I've seen the canoe one.
Like a spore drive. There's a type of mushroom you can set it on fire and it'll stay alight for days on end. So you can have a torch for days on end. It'll just self-combust all the time. And then in Star Trek, they've got the spore drive, where that's Paul Stamets. That character in Star Trek is based on Paul Stamets. The spore drive, manipulating the intergalactic spores of the mushrooms to time travel and dimension hop. It actually makes sense. In theory, it could work. But Paul Stamets is a legend. Yeah,
he is. No, shout outs to Paul Stamets. And I was actually wondering, is his mushrooms going to be better than the other mushrooms? Because he does seem to be more expensive than the other people. Is it because he's doing it in a better way, or is he just kind of taking advantage of his fame?
As far as I knew, he was just trying to use fungi to save the world in a variety of different ways, as in getting them to plastic and stuff like that.
That's the thing. I mean, it could be that he's it seems like he's a good guy doing it for all the right reasons. So, but maybe he is milking the general public a bit so that he can save the world, which is fine. You know, if he's adding a wee bit extra,
Maybe.
because he is trying to save the world with all his underground mushroom networks. Can you tell us more about the networks?
I can tell you something really fascinating about the networks. Usually, if you ask someone what the largest living thing is, they'll tell you it's a blue whale. But that's only actually the fourth largest living thing, after giant redwoods, coral reef, and the number one largest living thing on this planet is a mushroom in Oregon. I think it's about 30,000 acres or something like that. It's huge. They used to think it was all separate mushrooms, but it's actually this giant underground mycelium network, all connected up. And it's one entity, so it counts as one giant living thing. So you get these mycelium networks. Mushrooms.
I found it. I found it. I'm going to bring it up on the screen. Keep talking, I'll bring it up on the screen for everyone.
The mycelium networks under the ground everywhere. And when you see a mushroom, what you're seeing is the fruit of the mycelium. The mushroom isn't the mushroom. Yeah,
is that the one?
Well, maybe that's the fruit of it, maybe, yeah. Although, I don't know, I've not seen that. It's in Oregon.
It did say Oregon. It said Oregon mushroom, but I mean, that doesn't look like... Yeah. I'd imagine a big whale could beat that in a fight. So I'll keep looking.
But that's only the fruit of it. It's actually thousands of acres. It's all connected. Yeah.
It's all underground.
The mushroom that you're seeing there is just the fruit. Like if you have a tree and the fruit hangs off it, that's the mushroom. So the mycelium can go underground for thousands and thousands of acres. And when a mushroom's releasing spores, it releases them at a ridiculous rate. It's something like 1 million a second. So right now, I'm breathing fungal spores. You're breathing fungal spores, because they are that ubiquitous in the atmosphere. The whole atmosphere is absolutely full of them. And without them, we wouldn't exist. And not only that,
humongous fungus. Is it fair to call it a humongous fungus?
Definitely, yeah. Humongous.
Is it okay? Is it okay to turn a blind eye to people, usually Americans, who say fungi? Is that okay?
Well, I think it's like octopuses and octopi are both accepted. Some people think the proper pronunciation is fungi. Do you know what Stephen Fry once told me? Not personally, but when I was listening to him, he told me that there's no such thing as an incorrect pronunciation, because the way someone in Yorkshire pronounces a word is going to be completely different to the way someone in Newcastle and then someone in Glasgow. And so it's really down to accents. So as long as you're basically pronouncing the word right, you can pretty much, there is actually leeway in how you pronounce things. Everyone thinks you have to have this perfect pronunciation, but you don't, especially not if you're Scottish or Geordie or something like that. So fungi, yeah, whichever you want.
We'll just let them off. We're going to let them off with it then. We'll let them off with it. I just found that it's never bothered me before, because it wouldn't bother me if someone just happened to say it once, but You'll see what I mean when you watch that Paul Stamets film, Fantastic Fungi, as they keep on saying. It's just like, it happens a bit too much, so it gets a wee bit grating. And now I struggle to say fungi without saying fungi. So it's kind of affected me. Iria says, I met the mushroom goddess once after 500 shrooms. The truth is that we need to listen differently, and then we can hear the earth, plants, trees making music. It's incredible and hidden from us because of our egos. I love mushrooms. Excellent. I think that's bang on. And 500, is that 500 Scottish mushrooms, I'm assuming? Is that, what about yourself, Chris? What's your but obviously Terence McKenna says the 5 grams in the dark, heroic dose of 5 grams in the dark. But what I've always wondered about that is that the strength of mushrooms, it varies so greatly. Yet you get all these people in internet forums always talking about the 5 grams and the heroic dose, but surely it really does depend on what kind of mushrooms you're on.
Yeah, well, I've done the 5 gram dose on a few occasions. It's pretty intense. I've also done 20 to 25 grams though, which is fucking way more intense, and I wouldn't recommend that to anyone unless they're an experienced tripper. I actually did that by mistake the second time I ever tripped, and I was not prepared for that at all. But it did kind of exercise a lot of demons out of me, and even though I had a really terrible time having a bad trip on 25 grams of mushrooms, it did make me feel a lot better for years, maybe the rest of my life afterwards. It cleared me of a lot of negative shit from my childhood.
Yeah, that's maybe why you didn't have your any hangovers. Could that be the reason you had the
maybe.
superpowers?
It could be. It could be that I smoke copious amounts of weed as well, because I think I read somewhere that marijuana protects the liver from alcohol damage. It could actually be that if I hadn't smoked copious amounts of weed for the last 20 years, my liver might have failed me. It seems likely. But
Petra's made a good point. They say never laugh at someone pronouncing something wrong as they learned it from reading, which is a good shout. But, well, I mean, I'm saying fungi not because I read it, but because I heard, like, mushroom people. These are not just random people. These are mushroom people from the other end of the world who constantly said fungi. So I think you can pronounce a word. You can potentially pronounce a word wrong through hearing someone else saying it wrong, I suppose.
Well, there's mispronunciations and then there's malpropisms. A mispronunciation's fair enough. A malpropism is a completely gross misuse of the language. Like, so you have to be pronouncing the word
Like
right
when you say a word that's similar, but it's wrong. Like I do that. I've noticed I do it. See, because you're doing a show every day, you notice it more. But I say the wrong words sometimes. So is that what you would consider? Or like the Donald Trump does it as well. You know, it's like we slag Donald Trump, but then I'll slag Donald Trump for saying the wrong word, and then I'll go and do it as well. Because I'm a hypocrite. A hypocrite. Is that what you mean? A hypocrite? Yeah. Would that be a disgusting use of the language? A hypocrite?
I suppose that, well...
A hippocat? A hippocat, like a cat. Like a half hippo, half cat, a hippo cat. Is that what you mean? Is that a disgusting use of language?
A horse cat. A hippo means horse, so a horse cat.
A hippo means a horse. Whoa,
hippo
slow
means
down. A hippo
means...
A hippopotamus. A hippopotamus. Yeah. So that means horse-potamus. A horse potty.
It means horse river. Potamus is river.
Right.
Hippo is horse.
Of course.
It's a river horse. It's an even-toed ungulate, right? And that includes giraffes, camels, hippos, horses, anything with hooves. Any hooved animal.
A sea dog. It's kind of like a sea dog. What's a sea dog? A salty sea dog. A salty sea dog.
A salty sea dog's a pirate insult, in it, or a pirate compliment, maybe.
What's this?
But you know
Jane, is Jane not in Largs? Jane will know this. Salty sea dog. I told you, Chris. I can't say that word.
Definitely a salty sea dog for sure.
I say Jane is a salty sea dog. I told you, Chris is a Hold on, let me try and get it. Let's try and get it. Don't make fun of me, because you should never make fun of someone who pronounces something wrong, because it means that they've learned it from reading. Let's try this. A sesquiquagenarian.
Well, you're not going to pronounce it right from that, because she spelt it horribly.
She spelt it wrong. What chance have I got? Okay, how do you pronounce it?
Sesquipedalian, which means someone who uses big words too much, which is definitely me, yes.
See, I thought it was someone who had a phobia. I thought it was someone who had a phobia of long words. Is that a thing as well?
Hippo monstrosesquipedaliophobia is someone who has a fear of long words, which is a terrible name to give the fear of long words, isn't it? It's taking a piss.
Let me just bring that word on the screen for everyone. Sorry if you've got a fear of long words, look away now, because we're going to bring it on the screen. Wow, that's crazy. I'm just going to type up in a banner so people can see it. That's a word, man.
That's a big word.
It's a big word. Look at this. So this, if you've got a fear of long words, look away now. This is weird because we're talking about hippopotamuses. What's the chances? Mm-hmm. What would the mushroom god say about this? Hippopotamus. No chance, man. No chance. Say it again.
I can't see it, but if I'm correctly pronouncing it, it's hippo monstrosesquipedaliophobia. Is that right? I can't.
I think there's a wee
what-
extra pot. I think there was a little extra pot in there, but I'll let you off with it. It's still pretty good. Pretty good stuff,
Right.
man. Pretty good stuff.
Thank you.
Well,
The reason hippos come up again, the part of your brain called the hippocampus, and it's called the hippocampus because it looks like a seahorse. So seahorse, horse, hippo, right? So that's why.
sorry, I just got the image of like you know, Campus, the nightclub in Glasgow on Sucky Hill Street. It's just campus. It's just campus full of salty sea dogs out for the night.
Yeah, your hippocampus. It's in the shape of a seahorse. So yeah, it's cool. Etymologies are cool. It's all connected. It all goes back to Latin eventually. Flocky knocky and helipilification. That's another nice big word.
So what does that mean?
Words. It means describing something as worthless.
So it's just the hippocampus for anyone not familiar with campus. That's what the hippocampus is. Sorry, say that word again. Sorry, man, I got distracted by the hippocampus.
Flocky knocky and helipilification.
Fuck's sake, man, what does that mean?
Describing something as worthless. It's pretty hard to work into a sentence, to be honest.
So no, just battle rap, man. I mean, that's pretty much what battle rap is, isn't it? Just talking about other people's flopper. What's it?
Flocky knocky, inhale.
Flocky knocky. Flocky knocky. Blah, blah, blah. Let's go to the comments. Comments say, fuck, Chris knows his stuff. I love this, says Petra. Jane says, armadillo. Malcolm says, hippocat, are you on shrooms just now? The hippocats. How you doing, Malcolm? Mark, the other day you said cast assumptions instead of cast aspersions. Is that a malaproper? I think it is. Is that what you're talking about, Chris? I said...
I suppose, yeah.
See, do you know, there's actually a lot of the writing that I do, a lot of lyrics I do is, like, I mishear things a lot. And I think words are wrong, and then it's like when I realise someone says it or I see it written down, I'm like, oh shit, I've been getting that wrong the whole time. And then that makes me want to write something that, and then people think it's like a good play on words, but I just didn't understand the word. I got it wrong. It happens all the time. In fact, there's been times where I've been actually writing, maybe at the end of, when you're just about to release an album, and you're writing the lyrics out for Bandcamp or whatever, and then the spell checker just goes, nah, we don't know what you mean, and then you realise that you've just been getting it wrong. Like, what was it? Was one? Folklore. I was calling it folklore. Folklore. For years as well, up until fairly recently, I thought a dual carriageway was a dual carriageway. But it's actually a dual carriageway. There's a lot of stuff. That's another one. Be elated. Yeah, when someone says belated happy birthday, I just thought it meant a very happy birthday. You know what I mean? I'm not. I think I don't know if I'm just. Do you know everything? Do you ever make mistakes, Chris? Are you perfect?
It's not just you, Mark. I'm not perfect. I've got a pretty good grasp of the English language, but I do that kind of stuff as well all the friggin' time. So, don't worry about it. Everyone, spoonerisms are good when you swap the word at the end of the sentence for the word at the beginning of the sentence. Sometimes I'll deliberately spoonerism just because it's funny, just for comedy effect. I can't even give an example. But when you say, like, I'm on show's Mark tonight, you get two words. That's not a funny example, but sometimes you do it and it turns out really funny. Maybe if you Google some examples of spoonerisms, I'm sure there'll be some belters.
I'll do that. I'll get an example of spoonerisms. I'm just going to get... I want you to tell us about the DMT. You said that you had a profound experience in DMT recently. Can you tell us, did you meet a mushroom god?
I've met the mushroom god many times on mushrooms, but not on DMT. That's the other amazing thing about mushrooms. There is this entity. They are this living, advanced entity, and you can communicate with it. And when you take mushrooms, you can talk to the mushroom and have a coherent conversation with it, and it will tell you things you don't know. And recently, a guy called Michael Prime set up I think they're called like biochemical transmitters or something, but they take electromagnetic signals from fungi and they transmit the sound it's making. And you can go on YouTube and listen to it, and it's really weird. It sounds like aliens. It's like dripping and then like high frequency noises. And when someone
Yeah,
comes into the room,
how's yeah? Can you just explain that again? Like, so how does the mushrooms make the noise?
well, the mushrooms are vibrating at a frequency, but the frequency is either too low or too high for human ears to detect.
Right.
So he hooks it up with this equipment that does detect it and then amplifies it. And when a person walks into the room and they walk up to the mushroom, it reacts. It makes like crazy noises, and then when they walk away from it, it calms down. They're talking. The interesting thing is though, like
I've got it here, man. I've got it here. Let's just listen to a bit of it, just
play it, yeah.
for people that are. Oh no, it's the wrong one.
For people that haven't heard the music of the mushrooms, prepare to be amazed. They're speaking, they're communicating. It's Michael Prime. Play that fungi music, white boy. Lay down a boogie and play that funky music.
Is that loud enough?
Yeah.
What was that? A car alarm and a motorbike or something? Yeah. Aye, I'll do that now. So aye, that sounds like, you know,
How
it
cool
sounds.
was that?
Yeah, you just like a car reversing and an alarm going off, or like a motorbike revving. Is it like a motorbike revving? Oh, it's still going on. Sorry, it's going on in the background here. Yeah, fucking hell. So mushrooms sound like motorbikes, or are you hearing something else? Are you hearing spaceships going off? What are you hearing there?
It sounds to me like a spaceship taking off. Yeah, just very high
Yeah.
frequency. What I was gonna say is, at times when I have tripped on mushrooms years ago, before I'd ever heard this music, I've heard that tripping before. So I feel like I've actually heard the language of the mushrooms when I've been connected to them by tripping on them. You know, it's cool. I can tell you
What were
some
they
really
saying?
fucking
So
amazing.
on you go.
Well, there's like this misconception among humans that like plants are a less advanced species than animals or humans. And the reason that's wrong is when you think about a bee collecting pollen from a flower, you think that the bee's manipulating the flower, but actually the flower is manipulating the bee, in that flower has evolved specific texture, specific colors, and specific tastes and smells to attract that particular species of bee to it, so that bee then does the bidding of the flower, i.e. spreads its pollen. In exactly the same way, cannabis, coffee, and all these plants work on human consciousness. They have tapped into the innate human desire to be intoxicated, and marijuana and coffee and opium and plants have provided
Like dogs
us.
and cats as well. Dogs and cats do it, you know.
Yeah, so the plant's manipulating us because a potato has evolved specifically to gratify human tastes. And as a result of that, we have planted hundreds of thousands of fields of potatoes all over the world. And a potato, if it wasn't favoured by humans, would be a very niche, rare vegetable in a jungle somewhere. South America, I think. And
So are the
because
potatoes kind of
it's-
planting us because the more potatoes we eat, then the more humans mate and have more humans. So are the potatoes maybe planting the humans?
Well, there's many, many examples. The potatoes are borrowing our hands and our feet. We're planting them and cultivating them, and they've deliberately orchestrated that. And so it's a symbiotic relationship. But think of a strawberry, right? A strawberry has evolved to be really tasty so that you're attracted to that strawberry and you eat it. And then when you defecate, you're spreading the strawberry seed. So there's fruits that will tailor their tastes to be specifically attractive to certain animals so that they'll then be shot out and fertilized. The plants are ruling the planet, and they're manipulating us in all sorts of ways that we're not aware of. And they're just as advanced as animals, except they operate on different timescales that it's very difficult for a human to fathom, because they operate on timescales of thousands, if not millions of years, and we operate on timescales of minutes, hours, decades, you know? So it's two very different things. It's like trying to understand an alien culture. In the Amazon, which has about 60% of all plant species on Earth, it is a veritable pharmacopoeia, obviously, of medicines and cures. And what the Amazonian tribesmen do is they imbibe certain psychedelic plants, and they'll say to the plant, "My sister's ill with such and such. What do you recommend?" And the plant literally communicates with them in a language they understand, and it tells them which plant to use, and it's correct. And this is how they discovered many, many, many of the drugs we use in Western society have come from shamans and tribesmen and their understanding of the Amazon forest. And their understanding has come from communicating with plants. And it sounds wacky, but it's totally true. If you can do an experiment where, and it's been done, you take 3 plants, you put them in separate rooms, you go into one room, you say to the first plant, "You're a bastard, I hate you, you're a worthless piece of shit." The next room, you're indifferent, you don't acknowledge that plant. The next room, you're loving to that plant. "I love you, you're a beautiful plant, you look so pretty." The plant in the first room will die very quickly. The plant that you're indifferent to will die soon after, and the plant that you're positive to will flourish and blossom. And they've done this in controlled experiments. The plants react to your energy and the negative connotations and positive connotations of your tone of voice. There's millions of examples of this kind of stuff all over the world.
That's interesting, man. I've heard about that one before. I also heard that there was one that got debunked, but I think this is a different thing. This was water. I think it was a Korean guy, and he had water in one cup and water in the other cup, and it was school kids were to be nice to it or be nasty to it, but that was debunked somehow. But I'm not aware of the plants one. But I've got a question from Jane who wants to know about the corals waking up at the same time.
Yeah, good point, Jane. A coral reef has like alien DNA. It has more prongs than every other animal's DNA has, which is really unusual. And if you take a piece of coral from its reef, say in Australia, and you take it to London and you put it in a box under a sink, at a specific time of year, the coral reef blossoms, and it's always a different time. You can't predict it. And the bit of coral under the sink in London will blossom at precisely the same time as the coral that it was attached to in Australia, like at the same time. So it's really strange. And also, if you take oysters, right? Oysters have a very enlarged pituitary gland. We have pituitary glands too, and they react to the moon, the cycles of the moon. And if you take oysters and you put them in a dark cupboard and you cover them up, they'll still wax and wane with the cycles of the moon, even though they're no longer outdoors. So they're connected. They're intrinsically, inherently.
Can we talk about the moon? Let's talk a bit more about the moon. So,
Okay.
wait, so we've got, when people say all the time, retrograde, like people are like, "Oh, sorry, I'm being a cunt because it's retrograde," or people say, "Oh, I forgot that thing because of the moon." Well, you know, people blame the moon for a lot of stuff these days. Is the moon getting stronger, or are we getting more aware of the moon? And why is it that science, even though anecdotally everyone can say, "No, yeah, it's a full moon," if anyone's ever worked in a bar, they'll tell you the full moon night, or a taxi driver will tell you things can get mad on a full moon. It could be for the better or for the worse, but things could go mad in a full moon. So anecdotally, we all kind of sort of agree with that stuff, but yet science hasn't caught up to that. Why is that? Is it just, in general, for lots of these things, is it because scientists just don't have the method to capture stuff that we don't completely understand?
The problem with science is if it can't explain something, then it doesn't exist, right? If you can't present empirical evidence of something, it is not even acknowledged by science, which is kind of a silly thing to do because they're cutting out all of this stuff. There are things that you can't prove, that can't be empirically tested, but it doesn't make them any less true. And what you're saying about the moon, right? As everyone probably knows, we're all mostly water. The moon affects the tides. So whenever the moon goes over, it's affecting all the water on the planet. And that has an effect on a human being because we're bags of thinking water held up by brief accumulations of calcium. So we're completely controlled by the moon. It affects our pituitary gland. And astronomy, right? Sorry, not astronomy. Astrology, it is bullshit. You can't open a paper and go, I'm a Leo, so this is going to happen to me today. But in everything, there is grains of truth. And the grains of truth in astrology is that the movement of the sun and the planets and the stars does affect the way people behave, down as above, so below. It affects you in lots of ways. Electromagnetic energy affects you. And the sun, in school you were taught there was the sun and there was the planets and the earth going around it. That's wrong. That's been rejected. It's now like a sperm traveling forwards through space, and all the planets are like coming off the back of it like this, right? Like in a drag. So we're constantly moving billions of light years through space. And sometimes we're in parts of space that are full of electromagnetic energy, and we tend to be more like creative and enlightened at those times. And sometimes we're in parts of space where there's less electromagnetic energy, and that creates dark ages or whatever. But definitely the movement of the stars and the planets does affect you in some way. Maybe not the way Mystic Meg says, but in some base fundamental level that is a truth. Animals are affected by the moon. We are animals, and there's no reason why we should be exempt from that.
Is the solar system the same shape? You're talking about the shapes and stuff. Is the solar system the same as DNA structure? What's the similarities there?
It is the same as DNA structure. The universe tends to follow patterns, talking golden ratio, sacred geometry, Fibonacci sequence, spirals, especially spirals, all water spirals, most plants spiral, the galaxies spiral, the orbit of the planets. So yeah, that's totally right. It does look like DNA. And if anyone wants to do some proper mind-blowing deep research into all the stuff I've just said, read a book by a scientist called Jeremy Narby, who studied plants, and he made all these links between DNA and plants, and he reckons there's a connection between the DNA and how the plants manipulate our DNA in order to communicate with us. I don't know enough info about it to spill it right now, but if you read that book, The Cosmic Serpent, it's full of all this kind of interesting stuff.
I've got something that you might like here. This is the most detailed model of a human cell to date. I'll bring it up full screen.
Looks like a galaxy.
And hold on, I'll just get that. There's a few here. So it's it looks like a festival.
Yeah.
It looks
That's
like
cool.
it could be a sort of. It could also be a circuit board for a computer or something. I mean, I can't actually point up, but see the top right here. I mean, is that not like a hard drive?
Aye, living in a simulation, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It just looks like that.
It looks like a Google map of a really, really psychedelic place.
Sharon, I can see the big wheel. I can see the big wheel as well.
It's like if you took a Google map of like a distant alien planet or something.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
if you look at a cell within the human brain looks identical to a galaxy. And it's just that's why people often posit this. It's kind of a cliche now, but for all we know, we could be living inside a cell inside a larger brain, the brain being the universe of a much larger creature. That's entirely
a big
possible.
chap, a very big chap.
A very big, giant cosmic beetle, or God knows what. But the way the galaxy works, and the brain looks like a galaxy. It's almost identical. Your eye, it all follows the same pattern. I guess
A
if you wanna look
cosmic
at it more
beetle
like
in retrograde have walking towards. Sorry,
a retro
a
ninja.
hippocat. We could be in the brain of a giant hippocat walking towards the retrograde moon-soaked, controlled waters filled with salty sea dogs. Yeah?
We really could be, yeah. Well, you don't know, like when you're tiny, like a microbe can't see us because we're too big for it to fit. It can't acknowledge us because we're so big, in the exact same way we can't acknowledge that microbe because it's so tiny. So we don't know that we aren't microbes and able to acknowledge much larger things. And the other thing is perspectives, right? A photon is a beam of light. When a photon leaves the sun, right, it takes 8 minutes for that photon to get from the surface of the sun to the earth, right? Or it takes 20 billion years for that photon to get from the sun to the closest galaxy where it's perceived as a star, right? But the really fucked up thing is, from the perspective of a photon, it doesn't perceive time because Einstein, time is relative to the observer. So that photon experiences 10 billion years as if it were a nanosecond. We experience the photon's journey as 10 billion years. It's all perspective. So you can't tell that you're not just a fucking cell in a brain firing off. And maybe from your perspective, your life is like 80 years. But really, from an outside perspective, you're just a flash. You're just a neuron that's flashed off. We don't know. Who knows? It's a strange universe we inhabit.
We don't know. But since we're on this subject, what about collective conscious? What about the tests that are going on just now that sort of you can set off one thing in one side of the world and it affects something in the other side of the world?
Absolutely. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance.
Is that why Manson called their album Spooky Action?
Must be.
Because Manson had an album called Spooky Action.
Could be. And so spooky action at a distance, what we now call quantum entanglement, means two atoms, no matter how far apart you take them, if it's 10 yards or if it's 20 billion light years, they will still move at precisely the same time. In other words, they're connected forever, no matter how far apart they are. So that suggests, if something can connect across billions of light years, separation is an illusion. And I very, very, very much believe that there's a collective consciousness. It's like, in the beginning, all this ingredients for life are going round in a cosmic swirl, and within that is all the ingredients required for everything we see today. And after a certain amount of time, some of those ingredients start to form gas giants, planets. Planets are just, matter getting more and more vortexed and spiraled until it becomes either a gas planet or a solid planet. And I'm doing a really quick synopsis here, but if you think about that in terms of the human brain, it's like the universe has been an infinite consciousness. It's channeled that consciousness down into planets, and then it's channeled that consciousness down into a skull, and the skull can contain the consciousness. So you're a small part of an eternal consciousness, experiencing itself subjectively through this meat suit that you've been downloaded into, because a body's a very good thing for exploring. And if you function in 3 dimensions, you're not distracted by the other million dimensions. So you can actually learn about yourself. And by learning about yourself, you are the universe learning about itself. So I very much think there's a collective consciousness binding it all together. And I think when you die, you just become that again.
Do you know about the birds that were kind of held up as an example of the collected conscious or the connected conscious? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, do you mean how flocks of birds all turn at the same time? Almost
No, I don't mean that. I don't mean that, but that's good. Can you explain that one? Why is that?
Well, nobody's truly figured it out, but it's either
I'm sure you've got a theory.
I've got hypotheses. I know what the hypotheses are.
Oh, don't start with the hippos. Back with the hippos.
Well, they're either reacting to air currents or they're telepathically interlinked. There's no reason they shouldn't be telepathically interlinked. Think about women who live together and sync their menstrual cycles. That happens, right? Think about when the phone goes and you know who it is. Many, many times. Think about when you think of someone you haven't seen for 10 years and then they walk around the corner. This stuff happens all the time, but you filter it out, you dismiss it and you forget it. But we always seem to be inhabiting this collective consciousness. We do seem to have access to the past, the future, the present, all instantaneously. And anyway, quantum physics says that the past, the future, and the present does happen simultaneously. And there's no reason, people who have like past lives, there's children that are born that can describe perfectly by the time they're 5, like who they were in the Second World War, what plane they flew, all that stuff. Weird shit goes on all the time. Paranormal activities, ghosts, all this stuff can be explained by a collective consciousness. And you know it, I've lived with my girlfriend for 7 years and I know what she's thinking. You just do, you link with people. We are a collective consciousness. I'd be very surprised if we weren't. That would be, science reckons that matter created mind, but I would say mind definitely created matter for sure. There's an infinite consciousness, and matter exists by virtue of an atom vibrating at a certain frequency. Everything is sound, frequency, and vibration. All of existence, all of matter is just held together by a frequency and a vibration. And if you were to up it or lower it, it would all just dissolve. It would disappear. So I can't really remember what my point was there now. Because I went.
Yeah, no, it was all good. It's all good stuff. Do you think that because there's obviously that the sort of all sort of ties together with sort of synchronicity and serendipity? I'm not really sure that much of the difference of those, but when you get, I think it's happening more often because what we've got now is that we've got short attention spans. So what might be happening is we might be listening to our MP3 player or our phones or whatever as we're scrolling down social media, and we're outside on a bus while we're doing this. So there seems to be more opportunity for more coincidences to happen. So like, you'll hear a certain word on a song or a certain phrase, and then you see something happening that fits in exactly at the same time. Or maybe someone says something in a song, and at that precise moment, that same phrase you read on your social media at the same time as well. And add into the fact that we've now got algorithms that are basically predicting our behaviour and what we're talking about. So some of it seems to be that they're either listening or reading your text messages, or even just something that we do know that they do. And that's if you type something into your browser, then it's going to appear on your Facebook adverts. So when you've got all of this stuff happening as well, that you're now getting more coincidences. And how do you tell the difference between an actual coincidence and a robot creating a coincidence?
It has to pass the Turing test, but they've already done that. So you can't tell anymore. We're living in a world of artificial intelligence and robots, and it's only going to get even more so, even more cyborg. We'll be half robot ourselves within at least 50 to 100 years.
No, we are. We've got that. We've got these phones attached to us. And also, I think exactly. This is why you're getting people. I think so many people, and I think we're all guilty of it to a certain point of view. But you're getting people who generally think that they're virologists now, that they know about. Let's not get into COVID chat tonight. We had enough of that last night. But let's the idea that in general, how everyone's an expert now all of a sudden, and it seems to be because people are getting their brains mixed up with Google. So it's like, people say, "Oh, I know a bit about law," and you think to yourself, you know a bit about law. I remember telling a Polish guy that I knew a bit about law once when he was trying to pull me for drinking outside. And I was like, I know a bit about law. And the thing is that I actually believe that because you've got Google in your pocket and everyone's walking around thinking that they know stuff about medicine and all that, but they don't. They've just got a wee thing in their pocket that they can Google. So it's not real intelligence. It's access to a computer that knows stuff.
I think that's the difference between reading a book and getting all your information off the internet. Like, it's been proven with experiments that 60 to 70% of people will react and comment upon a headline simply from reading the headline. So these people can't even be asked to click into an article and spend 4 minutes reading an article. Do you really think they're ever going to be asked? When I come across information, what I do is I look at two extremes. I hear everything this side has to say. I hear everything this side has to say. If it's something I'm particularly interested in, I'll read a book about it. And the difference between reading a book and getting your information off the internet is you've got to really dedicate yourself to a book. And it's got a lot more detail. And so it just seems to imprint in your mind better as well. Like, I can read lots of information online and then forget most of it. But if I sit and read a book about the same information, that knowledge will instill itself in my brain. I think that there's a big difference there. Most people, everyone's an expert now. It's overwhelming amount of information available. And I don't know, just people being fannies on the internet. But
I suppose the thing is that I think there's that meme that Ralph from The Simpsons, it's like, is it Ralph? I think it's Ralph. What I want to be true, typing that in. So it's like, if you want to find a link to anything, or you want to find a hypothesis that kind of backs what you think, you're going to find it by typing it in that way. So it's not good enough to just have access to Google. It's about, do you know how to do it? Do you know what is a reliable source? Have a wee look at the sidebar. What other stories does this website generally talk about? Do they have a quite a blatant agenda going on? Is this is every story they say always have a same angle to it? And where are you getting this information from? Who benefits from this information?
Yeah, it's very difficult to tell. It really is these days, because you've got scientists who are getting paid by companies that are releasing new technology to glaze over something, or maybe not mention that, or and they'll take money and they'll go and they'll say that, and then that scientist saying that, so that's it written in stone. Yeah, you need to apply critical thinking to everything. You need to.
We talked about this the other day. So this needs to get taught in school, surely, because what people are now thinking is that critical thinking is not believing the mainstream, which is good. I welcome this, because we shouldn't just blindly believe what the news says. But it seems like we don't want to go into a world where we just believe anything else that's said just because it's not mainstream. Do you know, if I was to say that the vaccine's filled with 5G laser beams and a new form of Weetabix that is going to turn your nan into a moon parrot, and you won't see that in the mainstream news, so that proves that it's real. But we've got to also, maybe this is a turning point, because now it's official. Nobody trusts mainstream media or politicians, and this is their own fault for trying to pull the wool over people's eyes for so long.
Yeah, people are wising up to the media now. It's a very old strategy. I mean, The Romans used public propaganda to control the population. The Romans invented football and stadiums to control populations. Money was invented to control populations. 9 to 5 jobs were invented to control populations. And it's fair enough. It's kind of a dodgy thing having millions of people like without structure, I suppose, but they took the piss. Media is total brainwashing. It's amazing how many people still don't realize that, but you flick on BBC News and it's just pumping the same crap into your head 24 hours a day. Whereas if you flick on to like looking what actually is going on in the world, there's shit going on everywhere and they're not even reporting it. They report what they're told to report. So critical thinking has to be applied to any information that you... What I tend to do is if I believe something very strongly, then I try to debunk it. And if I try to debunk it and I fucking debunk it easily, then I have to go, right, well, you know, as much as you wanted to believe that, it doesn't seem to be true. If I try to debunk it...
But that's the thing is you do want to believe it. Yeah, but I think that's, I mean, I think that's a probably, I think quite a good thing for people to do is if you read something, and obviously the exciting headlines, I mean, the things that go viral, because the people that people share the interesting headlines and want to believe the interesting stuff, you know, the exciting stuff.
Yeah.
So if you type that story with the word debunked after it, you're going to get someone, probably quite a lot of people saying this is absolutely nonsense. Now, you don't need to believe the fact checkers, you know. I know people say, well, who fact checks the fact checkers? But what you've then got is you've got two pieces of information and you've got something to kind of go against, right? Okay, what's more likely here?
Yeah. Well, this is how I came to my pyramid conclusion, the same conclusion that Bram also drew, because I can debunk every pyramid theory. I can debunk slave labor. I can debunk concrete. I can debunk water. Debunk. The one I can't debunk is the acoustic levitation sonic technology one. I can't debunk that. So therefore,
we talked about this last week. We talked about last week on the show. We texted about this. Do you want to just give the viewers who might not be aware of sonic levitation a little introduction, briefly?
I'll give you a very brief synopsis. So right now in labs, they're starting to levitate objects. They've started with just particles and they're moving their way up to marbles and stuff. But sound, frequency, vibration, a machine built to match the sympathetic resonance of the atom within an object. So it cancels out the effect of gravity. There is no gravity. If you take a heavy object up into space, it doesn't weigh anything. It's weightless. The only thing that makes it seem heavy is gravity pulling it down to the ground. So if you can cancel out the effect of gravity with sound, frequency, and vibration, you can totally manipulate huge blocks of stone. So yeah, they've been doing it in labs. And if you think about it, an opera singer can smash a wine glass with her voice. Some of them can actually make it turn to like a malleable substance and not even shatter it. If you go to hospital, they break down kidney stones with sound, frequency, and vibration, and they heal bones that way too. You can detonate buildings with sound. You know, they have military weapons that can use sound to break down. The trumpets that knock down the walls of Jericho. So many ancient accounts of eyewitnesses to the building of the pyramids said they floated the blocks into place. It was magic. Now, I think it was Arthur C. Clarke that said, any sufficient technology is indistinguishable from magic. So if you see these guys just floating heavy blocks of stone, you're going to go, wow, that's magic. But then when you understand the technology involved, you're like, now I get it. So it is a thing, and it seems to be the most... I read about this about 5 years ago in a book by Andrew Collins called Gods of Eden. And I tried to debunk it then, couldn't. And it's actually gained in popularity since then, and there's been more proof added to corroborate it. So it's not definite, but I would say it's the best stab at explaining how the hell they pulled off such a feat that we can't pull off today. We've lost that technology, and we're just starting to regain it. And if you're really interested in it, you can Google Coral Castle. You can go there. It's a place that a guy built using huge blocks of stone that he balanced in ways that he shouldn't have been able to do. And he did it all by himself, and he did it overnight, and the evidence is there. and he said he did it the way the Egyptians did it, and then he died with his secret. But there is photos of him with strange machines. And Nikola Tesla, also has similar looking machines in his photos, and he said he understood the Egyptians. And Tesla was all about the sound, frequency, and vibration. And Tesla created free energy for the whole world that was unlimited, and they crushed it because Edison had an energy that they could actually funnel and charge us to use. So, you know, capitalism, what they're going to do, they're going to go for the money and make you pay for it. So Tesla was written out of history.
I've seen it, like, I've heard loads of that, man, and I've heard that a million times. And is that just 100% true, though, that Tesla had created that thing, or is this just, we just think this is what happened?
It can't be proven. We can't prove that Tesla
all right,
did. But the reason it can't be proven, when Tesla died, the CIA was straight in there and they took all his shit. And there's a story that Donald Trump's father owns the rights to some of his stuff, because there's a theory that started he was a time traveller, and there's a few wee bits. I'm not saying that he's a time traveller at all. I'm not saying that, but there's enough little wee bits that, because, like, you know, when people come up with an outlandish theory, there's usually elements of truth to it. To get it off the ground, do you know, it's like 2 and 2 equals 25. Do you know what I mean? So I've got some comments, and then I'm going to. Oh, actually, I was going to ask you about the Polish. Did you hear about? Do you know this? The life and lost art of Szalski, is he called? The artist. It's Leonardo DiCaprio, and his father made a documentary on Netflix. This guy. Hold on, I'll just bring him up. I'd recommend this for anyone who's watched it last night. Yeah, I'll just put that. In fact, I'm not going to bother with that. I'll come back to that. We've got a special guest warming up in the studio who's wanting to say hello, Chris. We've just got a couple of quick. Planet's Rule, tell them about the corals. We did that one. Vegans are going to come out as murdering bastards one day. Yeah.
And from vegan to cannibal. Hold on, where is it? What about crystals? Briefly, what about crystals? Are we on the side of? Are you pro crystal?
Crystals definitely have crazy, mental, strange properties we don't understand. The whole reason that kings wore jewels in their crown and everything was because they were the kings, so they were channeling all the energy. You know, crystals are strange things. There's a Brit. Did you see that British entrepreneur that's now making diamonds out of thin air? He just takes the carbon, which is the carbon is the stuff in the air that's bad for the air. He's removing the carbon from the air and using it to create crystals, because that's what crystals are. Because he's recreating the process that takes crystals thousands of years, but he's doing it very, very rapidly. So he's taking the carbon and crystals are coming out. So that's going to fuck the market. Sorry, diamonds, not crystals. Diamonds, obviously. The expensive things, diamonds. That's going to fuck the market for diamonds, because he can create like diamonds that are just as good as any other diamonds now out of thin air.
So now people that have got their fancy diamonds are not going to be too happy about it. You know, if you've got a fancy wedding ring with a diamond, it's useless, pointless. We'll be giving them away as part of our raffles in no time. We're going to have a big raffle soon, by the way. So if you want to potentially win a diamond, but I don't know if we'll actually have diamonds this time. Maybe this time next year we'll be giving away diamonds. But you sign up to patreon.com/YouCallThatRadio, and we're going to have a raffle soon. Hello to Soapy, and because we've got some latecomers here, Soapy and someone else, Martin Coleman. Hello Martin, hello Soapy, welcome. Petra's fact checking me. Thanks. I don't mind being fact checked. It's Mercury that goes into retrograde, not the moon. I think you're probably right. I don't really understand any of that at all. Nicolette says when it's a full moon, your cells have a magnetic pull towards it and it sends you off balance. Well, that's actually a good way to describe it, because that's why you would get so much wild and cheeky behaviour on a full moon. Not always bad. It doesn't necessarily mean bad stuff. It just means off balance. I think that's a good way. Off kilter is a good way to put it. Jane's taking all the credit because she says that she babysat you. She's heard you talking your stuff since 9-year-old. Correct, true or false?
That's true, yeah. True, yeah. True.
Colette, now I'm very interested in this. It's a great question because I've heard Colette talk about this a few times and I have no knowledge of it whatsoever. So it'll be interesting to hear what you think of this. Monotonic gold. I love the moon and aliens too. Monotonic gold, aliens need to survive. What do you make of monotonic gold?
Yeah, the Egyptians worshipped gold, and they worshipped gold because it has also very mysterious properties. If you take all the gold in the world today, it only feels like an Olympic-sized swimming pool. It's a very rare, strange substance. It has all these strange... I don't know the full info, but all you need to do is Google it, and you can go down a rabbit hole about all the crazy, unexplainable properties of gold. There's lots of things like that, like water. If you watch a documentary called Water, All We Know Is a Drop, there's all this weird shit about water that we have no clue about, like the way it retains a memory and the way it reacts to you and stuff like that. So, yeah, there's weird hidden energies and everything that we're just starting to sort of realise.
Okay, we're going to do, Chris, we're going to come back to Metonic Gold. We're going to play a quick song, and then we're going to bring on a special guest who wants to say hello.
Cool.
I'm going to play the video that you're in, Jackal Trades, because... yeah, we're going to play that. Jackal Trades, I Am the Fear. And tell us a little bit about this.
One day we broke into Mark's house. We dragged him out of bed at gunpoint into a car, kidnapped him with a bag over his head, took him to an undisclosed location, interrogated him, and then forced him to do a music video for our favourite Jackal Trades song. Right. Every time I drink out of this cup, it makes me think of that song.
Only yourself to blame. Only yourself to blame. Is it the stepping of a mad just tripping? Is the smoking in the gym? It is not quite fitting. Slipped in too expensive and excessive drinking. I get all my hangovers especially shipped in. News just in. It's your brain speaking. It's payback time for your wonderful weekend. That company you're keeping, that poison you're leaking. The sober door is creaking. Watch reality creeping. That thudding noise may be your head or your heart. Time to master the art of a panic attack. There's an actual fear here. You must now reenact those days you got the knock back, those times you got the sack. Recollect the absurd things you said, word for word, horrific. Big past vivid happiness, fake and blood. Think of that I love you, that you once slugged. You could hear a pin drop when you got ignored. You could hear the heartbreak from 100 yards away. Last night I seen you break dance, but no, not today. I seen you shuffle on the subway with the cold mince pie. Reeking at tobacco with defeat in your eye. Avoiding people that you know, cause they ask how you are. Delusion of self can only take you thus far. There was a glint in your eye, mere seconds later. You got a confidence boost from an anonymous stranger. Did you smile back? No danger. What does that make you? Forget you had the blood. That makes you a traitor. In the pickle out of luck, in-store detection. Fickle out, going fuck with an inward inflection. Out a battery, heading in the way. Deception being late, paying your rights. The only way they pay attention. You don't warrant a mention. You're constantly withdrawn. Like a crackhead's cup, and at the crack is gone. Oh, it's on, fuckhead. You had better believe it. How dare you have the cheek to even speak if I'm escaping near your bed now? You might as well have shot in it. The knives are out now, and the claws are sharpening. The days are darkening. You dehydrated mannequin. That bad review is accurate. You had better pack it in. You had better sort it out and get yourself together and get the heat down, cause up ahead is stormy weather. I am the fear and I roll you down like a broken vow from the Daily Record. I'm Nick Clegg's face and you're better together. The Queen and Christmas Day defending austerity measures like a header for Colin McGregor, then a jab. I'm a massive pack of monkeys attached to your back. I'm the angry policeman who would like a little chat. I'm the prick at the back that loves the Scottish boom bap. I'm that bouncer who never lets you in after stroking his chin with the Martin Shirley grin. I'm your phone in a taxi that is now switched off. I'm the marker pen that you can't get off. I'm the train you ran for on a final warning for that job that you hate on a Monday morning. I'm the bar shut Is it you bastard? I'm saying you're doing swell to your ex for your bastard. I'm the worst cunt, the badging. I'm a bad punchline like a coked up Audley Harrison. I'm a lazy journalist with a proclaimer's comparison. Wearing a pair of shandals with a hole, that's embarrassing. I'm the tax man, I'm the bad man. I'm a mad bam, will spam your daft plans with the bank scam, then serve you bad scram with the flat can, you fan dan. I am the fear.
You call that radio?
You call that radio?
What about the people who hated on me?
Right, and then I see the disinfectant that knocks it out in a minute.
That's mad, isn't it?
Is this a Netflix thing?
It's actually a podcast. What the fuck's a podcast? You know, it's kind of like a radio show.
Oh, that radio!
Yeah.
And is there a way we can do something like that?
I couldn't help it.
By injection inside or
Yeah, I think so, because I think just paint in general, because I think like my poem is in my painting.
No, cut. I should call that radio TV. We're live with Chris, and that was I Am the Fear. I Am the Fear, and I wrote you a letter, and we've got to. If we've got. Oh, shit, I forgot about that. This.
Last man standing on the edge of the world.
I try to remember, but when everything is coming back to me, I feel as if my memory is paralyzed.
Now let's see. What is the last thing you can remember?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, but yeah, the cunt that owns Spotify told me that if I get 3 more pre-save links for the new Jackal Trade single, then he'll personally buy me a Taz bar. So I've put the DistroKid link in the comments. But that's the new Jackal Trade single. It'll be out at midnight tonight on all platforms. And I was hoping the music video was going to bring it at midnight, but I've not finished it. I'm editing it just now. And also, the last one that we brought out, I just brought out as YouTube only. And this one, I'm thinking, bring it all out on the other platforms first, and then bring out the video. And see if that makes any difference. You just got to try and find a way. Find a way. What way? How do people want to listen to music? What's the best way to release music now? But if you can't wait until midnight, then that's fine. You can listen to the song right now if you're a patron. In fact, if you're a patron, you might not already be aware of this, but you've got this tune already. It's shouts to Oliver's got the song, Alan's got the song, Marion, Charlotte, Bob, Tracy, Ross, Anna and Ian, who all signed up this month. If you want to support this thing we're building, then go to patreon.com/you call that radio, or there's a PayPal link there as well. We are building a thing. We've done 150 shows since March. We've got loads coming in December. And yeah, support it if you can. If you can't, fuck it. We've got a special guest. I think this special guest needs a Royal Rumble style countdown entrance.
It's me. Everybody.
It's you. It's JC. How's it going?
Hello.
All right. Hello, Christopher. I'm just here to freak my
Hello,
dad.
Jay. How you doing?
I'm alright. Well, actually, I'm kind of freaking out a wee bit because I've not been on this for a while and I got nervous. Then I was like, why am I nervous?
Oh, happy birthday. Happy birthday. I forgot to say. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I know, it was a weird one. I booked 2 days off for it at the start of the year, assuming that I was going to be at the Icebox, and I wasn't. I was at my nan's house in my own house, and that was it. But it was, I mean, all I care about is that we're all still alive when we get to go out again. So But I
Fingers
just wanted to
crossed.
go on and freak my dad out because my dad's watching. My dad. It'd be funny if my granny was watching as well, but because she would be phoning the priest to come and do confession or something.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in for any grandson. There's lots of comments coming in. We've got that would be hold on, that'd be freaky. Yash J says Nicolette.
I don't have I've usually got dealy bobbles, but I don't know where they are, so I've just got devil horns.
They're on my
happy
Christmas
birthday.
tree.
Have you got Christmas trees? Where'd the Christmas trees come from, Chris? Oh, I can't see. Hold on.
I want to talk to you about that actually.
That's why we're here, innit? To talk about Christmas trees. There's a bit of delay coming, Chris. Is that you, or is that... Hold on, I'm just going to mute Jay. Oh, yeah, it's coming from JJ. Have you got a set of earphones? Don't worry if you've not. It's all good. I'll just mute you until you're talking. Chris, tell us about the Christmas trees.
Yeah, they're connected to magic mushrooms. Surprise. Santa Claus and Christmas and the Christmas tree are all completely connected to magic mushrooms. And this is how, in the Northern Hemisphere, in Lapland and with the Inuits, every Christmas time is mushroom season. We're talking Amanita muscaria, the big red polka dot psychedelic mushroom. And so the shaman, the local shaman, goes out same time every year, and he dresses in red and white in his big red and white suit, exactly like Santa, and he fills his sack with magic mushrooms, and he puts it over his shoulder, and he goes to the local village. And because it's winter and there's heavy snow, they don't use their entrances because they're all blocked up with snow. So they have chimney entrances. So everyone comes in and out through the chimney. So the shaman visits each house in the village, comes down the chimney with a sack, gives them a handful of magic mushrooms each, and they dry the mushrooms out in red and white stockings above their fireplace, because you have to dry magic mushrooms out to take them. And furthermore, the Amanita muscaria grows under the tree that we put up in our living room. And if you look back to the 1930s and anything predating that, you'll find that people used to put the magic mushrooms on their tree, the ornaments, like instead of baubles. And on Christmas cards from that period, there's always magic mushrooms on them. And furthermore, the flying reindeer is because the main diet of those particular reindeer is magic mushrooms. And the local people that herd the reindeer, they drink the reindeer's piss, and that makes them trip. And so you get the myth of the flying reindeer who eat the mushroom that grow under the tree that we put up in our house every year. And I don't think I missed anything out, but there's all these myriad connections between magic mushrooms and Christmas and Santa Claus. It's pretty
Amazing
interesting.
stuff. It is indeed. And so, when did Coca-Cola become involved?
Well, that's a myth. It's a myth that Coca-Cola turned Santa red. Santa was, they did sort of repopulate. He was originally red, and then he became lots of colours, like green and yellow, depending on your culture. And then Coca-Cola sort of reddened him again. But it's kind of half myth.
What about Santa being an anagram of Satan? Should we read anything into that, or is that just a coincidence?
You definitely should read into that. I'm reading a book at the minute called The Secret History of the World. It's by Jonathan Black. And it tells you like the story of creation and the story of history, but as told from the perspective of secret societies. And it's all connected. Saturnalia, Saturday, the Rome, it all goes back to pagan worship, right? All of the things we do, Halloween, Christmas, Easter, all of it has roots in pagan worship. When the Christians conquered, they knocked down anything to do with pagan worship, and they built their chapels and their churches on those spots. And they eradicated pagan worship, but they kept the holidays and they just rebranded them. So Saturnalia was the Roman.
Saturnalia. That's do you know, I've actually got a beat I've got a beat called that I've been writing to, and I wasn't aware of the. I'm aware of the pagans, but everything got rebranded from the pagans. Also, it kind of taps into that, the same idea of that collective consciousness thing that we were talking about earlier on as well, and that there was, this very similar stuff was practiced all around the world, possibly related to the seasons. The Son of God, the Lamb of God, all that stuff. That it's practically the sun. A lot of the sun worship stuff, a lot of pagan stuff. But also just some really interesting stuff about the cave paintings and stuff like that. They look at identical from different parts of the world that could not have possibly have seen each other.
Mushrooms are often a common theme in those cave paintings as well.
Mushrooms are a common theme in this show, and I'm loving it. We've also got Gypsy Lee, who's loving it as well. That is my kind of Christmas. We should maybe just do a mushroom Christmas special on this show. And we'll all just take mushrooms. But we're actually supposed to be having the Age of Aquarius special on December the 17th. I think it is. December the 17th, an Age of Aquarius special with one of our regular viewers, the Captain, who is no longer a regular viewer, or he's not talking to me, he's in the huff. He was offensive to the Root System fans, so I had to eject him from the YouTube chat, and he gave me a big fat dislike on the video, and he's not been back since. But if you're watching, you're still welcome. We're still on for Age of Aquarius. No harsh feelings at my end anyway. What is the Age of Aquarius all about?
Well, like we were saying earlier, there's connotation. In everything, there is grains of truth. Everything. Religion, all of it. So, Age of Aquarius is due to happen, I think it's December 25th. We're moving into a new constellation. For every 21,000 years, the sun rises in a certain constellation, and we're finally moving out of Pisces and into Aquarius. It's a different area of space. It's different electromagnetic energy. It does have connotations down here on Earth. Like Saturn, look at the days of the week, right? The days of the week, the beginning of the week was originally Saturday, Sunday, Monday, because they believed there was cosmic nothingness, and then Saturn came into being, and Saturn brought with it matter and minerals. So they think matter and minerals was the first thing to be created. And then on the Sunday, the sun came into being, and the sun brought with it plants, because the sun can allow plants to be created out of matter and minerals. And then on the Monday, the moon came into existence. This is like just ancient beliefs. And so they believe that the moon brought animals, humans, emotions, consciousness, and all that kind of stuff. And so your days of the week are named after them. And all religions are saying exactly the same thing. If you study each religion, they are all saying the same thing. Different names, same characters, same stories. The flood Noah's Ark myth is in Hebrew tradition, it's in Mesopotamian tradition, it's in Egyptian tradition, it's in all of them, every religion on earth, the ancient Chinese, they all have their own Noah's Ark story. It's all
is it true that the three wise men is about stars?
Orion, possibly, yeah. I've got an interesting.
These are all metaphors for. I heard it was about stars. Jay, are you older? I've muted Jay. Sorry, I forgot. Are you got earphones on now?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Is that?
Yes. This is my works headset.
Yeah, they look great.
Thank God that they sent me this. Did you see me running a bit looking for it? I found these that are broken and mysteriously sticky for some reason. That sounded a bit weird, but and then Bones is down there. The cat's here to come and visit as well. And I was running a bit trying to figure out so my options were either figure out how to connect this headset or rapidly learn sign language so that I could communicate while still muted. But it
wouldn't have really helped me. I'm not too familiar with sign language, although it's something that I've really been wanting to learn as well. As well as Gaelic as well. We had it's been quite embarrassing. We've had Scottish Gaelic and Irish Gaelic people on recently on the show, and I feel quite embarrassed that I don't know the language. Your own language. It's mental, isn't it?
I was I was talking to my nan, who's actually English, she's from Birmingham, on my birthday a couple of days ago, and I said I wish I could speak Gaelic because they complain about the language is dying out, but they only teach it in certain schools or the further up north you go. So I think they should teach that for like nursery. I'd love to speak Gaelic, but I'm far too lazy to learn it now.
It's tough. They say that it is harder to learn languages or anything for that matter. The older you get, things like driving lessons, stuff like that, all gets a wee bit trickier once you get that. But Chris, you would probably disagree with that. You believe that it's all about learning and you never stop learning.
Yeah, I have heard that's a myth actually, that it gets harder when you're older, but you'd have to fact check that. But I have definitely seen on QI or something that it's a myth. But yeah, well, obviously you spend the first 10 years of your life learning more than you'll ever learn for the rest of your life. And then in the next 10 years of your life, your formative years, the things that happen to you in those years tend to really, really stick in your brain and determine who you are for the rest of your life. But like, I believe the meaning of life is to learn. So I learn every day. And when you learn every day, you just can't help but change. After years, you're constantly feeding yourself new information. So it changes your perspectives constantly. I'm a very different person to what I was 4 years ago. And I was a very different person 4 years before that. It's all about learning. It's important. It's your duty as a functioning human being in this cosmos to learn as much about it as possible and feed that info back into the universe.
Well, I've spent this year doing is learning new technology, learning about webcams and microphones, editing. There's always just when you think you've learned something, there's a new software or a new thing you've got to learn. So I'm looking forward to just everything working from now on. And then maybe I can learn a bit. What is it?
Did you ever get your new computer? I think they're like, I've not.
Yeah, this is it. This is the difference. I mean, if you look at, if we have a wee look at how it used to look, let's go for.
My cat's got the hiccups, by the way. I didn't even know cats could get the hiccups.
A hippo cat.
He is a hippo cat.
A hiccup cat. Nicolette's commented saying that hippo cat's a real word. I'll need to Google that in a second. But I'm just going to put on. Wait, this is
cat's a real word.
So this is how it looked. You know, when we started. So yeah, look, that was me.
Oh, I can see the difference now.
Like there was just.
You had like 3 pixels across your whole face.
Yeah, and I didn't know how to switch. It was a big. It wasn't very good. It was all right. I liked the background. The background was quite good.
Speaking of backgrounds, I've got a new one. I only put this up like the day before yesterday, and hold on, let me do this. I've got bats up there as well. Where is it? There, because every day is Halloween in this house.
Bats are also proof of collective consciousness, aren't they?
Don't stop here. This is backcountry. They have radar. It's quite different. Radar is different. But that's another good point about perspectives, isn't it? Because a bat sees the world through the perspective of sound, and we see the world through the perspective of light. So it's strange differences. I like your bats though, Jay. I've got real bats roosting outside my window, and they fly up to my head and stuff. It's pretty cool. I think they're attracted to my mohawk.
At Eden one, I think it was the first year I was there, which was like just blew my mind that year. And I was like, actually, Mark, I don't know if you remember this, but you and Jamie were having a debate about flat Earth, and me and Kev Pearson were the referees. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I seen a bat. That was my first proper experience at a festival. Bar Kilburn, the year that there was like a big storm, because I phoned my mum to come and get me the next day. I was like, I can't deal with this. But at Eden, that was my first experience, and I was like, what's happening? And then I seen a bat and nearly started greeting because I was so excited. That's how I live my life.
Do you think he still believes in flat Earth? I mean,
100%.
100%. Fuck's
sake.
No, because that was a long conversation. It was a long conversation.
because it started while it was dark. No, it started while it was light actually. Then it got dark, and then it got light again. So that's how long we stayed up in Soapy's party gazebo.
I'm sure I surely must have went away at some point, but
Nah.
maybe not. Maybe not.
Maybe mentally.
Maybe mentally zoned out. Sharon says she's been watching from the start. 8-month journey. Has that been 8 months? Wow. Oh, also, if you're... this show didn't actually start 8 months ago. That's a trick question. It's actually looking for that at the pub quiz. It started last June when we did the audio podcast. There's 23 episodes available on Spotify, Apple, and all the podcast places when we were just an audio podcast, which is a very different format. And I have recorded the start of season 2 now, so look out for that. That's coming very soon. Will Johnson says, "Batch." Fox Rosa, thanks by the way, who made the I Am the Fear video. Didn't even give a shout out. Shout outs to Fox Rosa.
Oh, yeah.
And she says sonar. And Colette says, "I love being a Pharaoh blonde." Martin Coleman says, "Become Insanity Clause."
That's my
Mushroom
actual
Night.
dad. That's not even Billy Idol. That's my biological dad. We all know Billy Idol's my real dad. But very fair. Just having a nice day.
Hello, Martin. Santa is just...
Hello, Martin.
Colette says Santa's just inexpensive. The parents pay for yins the year. P.S. That's a fly... Oh, a mushroom. It's a mushroom. A flyger, Greg. There should only be one religion. It's called love, says Stephen Marley. Vibration for the nation. Bats and wee folks need it. Happy birthday. We should sing it for Jay.
Is an Amanita muscaria. I was using the Latin name.
Happy birthday from Alan.
Cheers.
Yes, and no more blood diamonds, says Jane. If you're watching, please become a Patreon. Yes, please do. And energy, frequency, and vibration, says Nick. Defo, the cows get shocks through their hoofs, says Martin. Jane says, well said, mark my words. You pair are rocking my boat tonight, Mark. 15 years of friendship. Chris, 30 years of friendship. Since he was single figures in age. Pair of smashers, so proud of you both, and love seeing your faces with the banter. Positivity all round. That's what I like to see. Much love to you, Jane. Positivity. Nicolette says that
much love.
Hippocat is an actual word. Sharon says, and it's been so corrupt with the Tory government. Millions of their friends, then the public sector pay freeze. They are siphoning money. They are indeed. And Joe McCann says, we are insignificant specks in the size of the universe. However, we are at the centre of our conscious universe. Would you like to add into that?
No.
We are the centre of the universe.
Do you know what Nick said?
The universe is infinite, so by definition, you are the centre.
Synesthesia, which I was actually going to mention when you were talking about the great minds, Nick, because when you were talking about how bats sort of see the world through sound, there's also people that can hear smells, see music.
Mm-hmm.
What's that all about?
Mm-hmm. I've experienced synesthesia tripping. I've experienced music as words. I've experienced smells as sounds and tastes as colours. It's very strange. You're just, it's just something's wired wrong in their brain, so they're not functioning the way we do. I mean, a praying mantis shrimp has 12 colour receptors in its eyes, and we only have 4 colour receptors in our eyes. So a praying mantis shrimp sees loads of colours that we've never seen, that we don't even know exist. So these things are out there, and sometimes I think like autism and Asperger's and stuff like that is sort of a higher form of evolution, but just your brain isn't quite built to cope with it yet, and so it turns into sort of a trip. But yeah, I've experienced synesthesia tripping, and you can experience it tripping. It's pretty cool. There are people that live that way, and it destroys their lives, obviously, because It's like your name tastes like something. I know someone who could taste a word, and each word had its own distinctive taste, and it's pretty cool in a way. It's interesting, yeah. We function in a very...
Jimi Hendrix is believed to have it, and that's why he referred to his music as colours, especially when mixing in the studio. I believe Mog, the story goes that Mog is as well, and that's why all his albums are named after a colour. So he sees it in colours, and he just... The way he explained it was that he just thought everybody seen colour when you heard a song. He thought everybody's seen it.
I don't know if this is true.
I can tell you some really interesting things.
Sorry, Jay, stop it first.
Chris, you bitch. Sorry.
No, go on, Jay.
So, I don't know if this is actually true or if I've just assumed based off of a scene in a Doctor Who episode, but I think it was, I think Van Gogh was meant to have had synesthesia, or however you say it, as well. And that's why, so, what's the painting? Starry Night? So he would see like shapes and things, and like he would hear the wind, and that's how he got that. And there is, not that I relate everything back to Doctor Who, but I do a wee bit. There is an episode where he's in it, and at the end it shows you like how an interpretation of how he would have saw the colours of the wind and all that. And it's actually a really good episode. Here's my cat, by the way. He came to say hello. He doesn't want to be here.
I'm not as familiar with Doctor Who as maybe I should be. Also, people are telling me that I should be watching The Crown, which I think sounds like a load of shite. Has anyone watched The Crown? Should I be watching The Crown? Or is it as pish as I imagine it?
I've heard it's amazing, but most of the folk that are saying it's amazing are Americans, and you know how Americans just think royal family are dead cute, and I'm like, please don't. But I'll probably get round to it eventually, because I like a lot of the actors that are in it. I started watching His Dark Materials. That was pretty good. That's like...
I've not heard of that.
It's on... I think it's on Amazon Prime, but it's on the BBC as well. Do you know the film The Golden Compass? It's based off books as well. Herron, you'll probably know what books they are, but I don't know what they're actually called. Maybe they're called The Golden Compass. But there's like a film of it, and then they've now made it into a TV show, and it's on the BBC. But I've only watched 2 episodes, but it seems pretty good. I've pretty much only watched it because I like some of the actors in that as well, to be fair. One of them's in the musical Hamilton, which I will not shut up about. I don't know if anybody's seen that, but it's incredible. It's a hip-hop musical.
I've heard all about it. But I think I don't know, something musicals just kind of puts me off from the start, and that's why The Crown's putting me off, because it seems like it's going to be a humanising expedition to make people feel sorry for the royals, and you know that. I mean, fuck's sake, it's just fuck's sake. That's what I think about it. And do we need, one of the weirdest phrases of all time that's been normalised in 2020 is sexy Thatcher. They've got Gillian Anderson coming in and making a sexy Thatcher. Fuck's sake, have we not suffered enough this year?
I'm about to jump in the sea. I didn't need to hear that.
Malcolm says, weirdly, if I see anything purple coloured, I think I taste it.
Like this cushion?
Let's just see, can you taste this? Like? Malcolm, can you taste the cushion? Taste the cushion, Malcolm. What does it taste like? What does it taste like, Malcolm? What does it taste like? What?
I think this would taste like like Americans have grape flavoured everything. I feel like that's what this would taste like.
This
like
tastes like fucking wine. This wine tastes like grapes. This is actually what it is. I've been calling it blackcurrant. That's exactly what this tastes like. Just a grape. It's actually been reasonably pleasant, but it's not a wine, man. It's not what I would thought it was going to be. Malcolm says yum yum. Seriously, what does it's a serious question, Malcolm. What does the colour purple taste like? Alan says the French and the Russians dealt with the royals in the right way. Alan's not fucking about tonight. Will's making a joke. Royals were terrible, I recommend Kensington's Club. But what? Club cigarettes? What happened to Club cigarettes? Grape juice is good for you. I don't think this stuff is. I don't think this stuff is good. I don't think so. Right. I'm going to start wrapping things up. I want to ask Chris and Jay, what's been your favourite music of 2020? Because I'm starting to now think about doing roundup shows and end of year lists and stuff like that. I think we should do a wee end of year list, or a wee end of year show. So just like, is there anything that you've enjoyed this year that, well, it doesn't matter whether I have or I haven't heard of it. I just want to hear your opinion. Chris?
Well, Minerva Wakes, really digging that. Trippy, cool, trip-hop electronic goodness. Joe sent me a couple of tracks of that. Really cool. I'm looking forward to hearing that album.
The album's amazing.
And there hasn't been a lot of music this year, really, has there? Although it should all be coming out now because we've all been locked up in our homes, presumably creating it.
Yeah, I think there's going to be such a backlog of amazing music. The stuff that was going to get released anyway that's been paused because you can't really tour it. And then there's all the other stuff that people have been writing while they have been locked down. So expect a lot of songs about isolation and how missing people, loneliness, and then the party music when it all returns. There's going to be a party.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that day. I was because Colonel Mustard are finally bringing out a new album, and the Colonel posted something about it yesterday, and the way that he described the gig that's going to happen, or like the post that he done was basically like what it's going to be like a Friday night listening to it, because I think they're playing Playground Festival allegedly if it goes ahead. And I honestly nearly shed a single manly tear reading it because it's like it's like an urban legend now, being somewhere watching live music in the sun with people. I just can't wait for that day. I will be a sobbing mess. I greet at festivals anyway because I'm just having a nice time. So I'm just going to be. See if you see me, by the way, on the floor at a gig or a festival, just sobbing. Just step over me. Just leave me there. I'll be fine eventually.
The good times are coming back. We just need to remind ourselves of that. It's just I mean that's why I'm on the non-alcoholic wine. Let's get the liver in a good nick for the party that will be next year. We've got, somebody said something about mistletoe. Lee, I think, was saying that you can hallucinate in mistletoe. Could that maybe be an alternative to drinking next year? Because we're getting too old for hangovers. Apart from Jay, maybe not Jay, but we're getting too old for hangovers. Could we use mistletoe as a hallucinogenic?
Is that a question for me? Yeah. Well, mistletoe has connections with the moon, as we were saying earlier. They used to say that mistletoe didn't grow in earth soil; it only grows on the moon. So there is all sorts of weird stuff about it. And I've not heard of it being a psychedelic, but certainly there's hundreds of psychedelics out there. I've tried a lot of them. And yeah, I would suggest that we all, at this tender age, replace drinking and cocaine and shit like that with psychedelics because A, they make you feel good. B, they're an antidepressant. C, there's no come down or hangover. D, they're not addictive. E, they cure addiction, all that kind of shit. We should definitely start just eating mushrooms and smoking DMT and stuff like that. Fuck alcohol.
Should we put a wee bit of a disclaimer in? Put a bit of a disclaimer in there that there is also exceptions that maybe shouldn't be taking psychedelics as well, Chris. And you know this.
Like me.
Yeah, definitely. Like, don't just.
It's not for everyone. It's just not for everyone. But But in theory,
it isn't for everyone.
It seems like a good idea. We've got. Quite saying another month you can have a big job, Marky? Yes! Do you know what? I'll be taking some time off in January to have 8 months worth of jobbies. Thanks, Colette, for thinking of me. Sorry, Chris, you were saying about let's go back to the DMT. What's the you said that, can you remember your last DMT trip? Can you go into detail about that? I think we got distracted last time.
Yeah. Well, I think I went on a tangent about something else. Yeah, so DMT, just a quick explanation of what it is. DMT is a chemical compound, it's a molecule, and its chemical signature is almost exactly the same as serotonin, which is the happy chemical in the brain, and it's also almost exactly the same as the chemical signature of psilocybin, which is mushrooms. And those three things have extremely similar chemical signatures. Now, DMT exists in every single living thing. Every plant, every animal has DMT inside them. We have it in our brains, in the pineal gland. The pineal gland is what people are talking about when they refer to your third eye. Lizards have very prominent pineal glands. Ours is a little more calcified. So when you smoke DMT, it seems to transition you into another dimension. Now, when you're born, your brain floods with DMT. When you die, your brain floods with DMT. When you're dreaming, when you're asleep, your brain floods with DMT. And they're not sure exactly what its function is, but they reckon it definitely modulates your dream. And they hypothesize that it maybe even modulates your reality. And when you smoke it, and scientists have smoked it, and they've all said this, and 99% of the people who have smoked it have said that it was a positive experience, that it was a life-changing experience. At least 50 to 60% of them said it changed their life for the better, gave them revelations. So having done the Z to A of psychedelics in my life, I had to try DMT because it's become very popular, thanks, I suppose, to Joe Rogan, because he presented a show about it called DMT, the Spirit Molecule, which is based on Rick Strassman's book. I would recommend watching or reading that book or that documentary. And so when I smoked it, you take it in a bong and you mix it with a little tobacco or whatever, herbal tobacco, because you only take 0.05 gram of it, a tiny, tiny little dose. And that's a threshold breakthrough dose. And you take a big hit and you hold it in as long as you can. And then I meditated. And then when I meditated, this peripherals of like mosaics flooded in. And that was like me transitioning out of this dimension, breaking through about 7 membranes of dimension, and then bursting out into this infinite, absolute blackness, nothingness. And I was gone. My consciousness was gone. My body was gone. And I spent a while like that. And then I started to sort of pull myself together and be like, right, I think you might have died. I think you better like pull yourself up out of this hole. And that was just my thought. I was only experiencing thought in infinite nothingness. And so I started climbing. I wasn't climbing anything substantial. I just felt like I was going upwards. And I eventually got to light. And all this light started pouring into this void that I was in. And it was as if I was watching the sands of time being created before my very eyes. And I wept. I wept with the joy of it. I was deliriously happy. And then I asked no one in particular. I said, I want to meet the elves. Because the main reason people think DMT is a transition into another dimension is because for hundreds of years, people who have smoked DMT have had the exact same experience in isolated conditions where they've met these self-transforming mechanical DMT elves. And they're called elves not because they look like elves, but because they behave like elves. They're very mischievous and jocular. And I wanted to meet them. I wanted to converse with them. But psychedelics have this wonderful sense of humor where, like, whatever you want, they won't give you it, but they'll give you what they think that you need. So the elves were gone. Aliens flashed by, like typical grey aliens I saw looking at me, but that was gone in a second. And then I felt like I was traveling at the speed of light. And interestingly enough, a couple of days ago, I watched some scientists use a computer to simulate what it would look like to travel at the speed of light, i.e. in a spaceship, like a warp drive. And it looked exactly like the patterns and crazy fucking geometric swirls that I was going through when I felt like I was traveling at billions of light years, the speed of sound. And then I stopped and this huge glowing warm entity was above me. And you could only describe it as God, because that's the kind of presence you feel, but not necessarily God as in an organized religion way, but as a collective consciousness, maybe as the universe as a whole, maybe something deep within yourself, whatever you want. But it was this huge, warm, glowing presence, and it spoke to me, and it said, you shouldn't fetishize psychedelics and marijuana so much, because this power is inherent inside you and you don't need it. And I didn't really know what that meant. And then it picked me up gently, and it was like I saw all these parallel universes flashing past, and they were all pretty much the same universe I inhabited, presumably with slight differences, and it deposited me in presumably the correct one. For all I know, I could be inhabiting a parallel universe that a slight thing changed I didn't notice. And so I was back, and this whole experience felt like, you know, it felt to me as though I had been taken back to the seconds before the Big Bang. I had experienced the Big Bang from a first-person perspective where I expanded outwards. Then I experienced time coming into being. Then I experienced matter coming into being. And it seems to me like I experienced the 13.5 billion year age of the universe all in 20 minutes, like boom, straight through my brain. And later on, many days after this, I came across a video by Sadhguru, who's like this Indian yogic master. And he was talking about that guy. And he was talking about how he's stoned all the time, but he doesn't smoke weed. And he was talking about how endogenous chemicals in your body, endogenous meaning they exist within you. So you've got cannabinoid receptors within you. Obviously, you've got the DMT, you've got receptors for psilocybin, all that shit. So it exists in you, and you can manipulate it. If you can master meditation and you can master body awareness to such a degree that you can actually manipulate the DMT and allow it to drip into your brain and make you trip a bit. Now, Wim Hof's also talked about this. He says he can do it. And the exclusive I have for you is that I took the DMT at the beginning of October. I learned that stuff within the week after. And I've been meditating for a couple of years now, so I've already kind of got the basic skills. And about a week ago, I sat in a dark room with these headphones on. I listened to DMT activating music. You can go online, and the theory is that they play it at a certain vibratory frequency that will activate the DMT in you. And I went into deep meditation in pitch black with the headphones on, with that music. And within 10 minutes, I was fucking tripping balls. And I tripped balls for about 30 minutes. And it was not like tripping when you take drugs, because it was controllable. I knew that if I stopped and I opened my eyes, it would be gone. So I had to maintain it. I had to concentrate on maintaining the trip, but I was tripping. And afterwards, for about 10 minutes, I lucid dreamed, you know, where you like have like a waking dream. And so, yeah, I achieved it. I did it. I unlocked some kind of chemical. I don't know if it was the music, or I don't know if it was just time, or I'd got to that point in my meditation skills, but I achieved it. I tripped.
So the lucid dream thing is I was under the impression that lucid dreaming is referring to when you're actually sleeping and you're dreaming, you can control the dream. So is this an awake dream? So could you just explain that?
Well, I've had lucid dreams like in the past where I've been able to control the dream, but I haven't been awake, but I've controlled it. For example, just to give you a quick example, I had a dream that I was tied down and a big blender was coming down to mash me up. And then I heard Johnny Cash playing live in a room, and I thought to myself, hold on, Johnny Cash is dead, so he can't be playing a live gig next door. And for some reason that dropped in my brain, and I was like, this is a dream. And when I realized it was a dream, I started to manipulate the dream. I stopped the blender, and then I started tripping and flying and doing whatever I wanted in this dream. So I guess I didn't mean lucid dreaming. After that trip in the meditating, I kind of went into like a waking dream where I was asleep, but I wasn't asleep, but I was awake, but I wasn't awake. And weird dreams were happening to me in a sort of meditative state.
A little bit of advice for anyone who's wanting to learn how to lucid dream is that if you're not sure if you're dreaming or not, just the same way that you're saying that you had that moment with Johnny Cash. Well, what you do is, if you're not sure if you're dreaming or not, how do you tell the difference between a dream and reality? Is look at your watch. And everybody will say, oh, what if you've not got a watch? No, you will have a watch. If you look at your wrist for a watch, you will see a watch and the numbers will all be all blurry. Or if you look at a clock, just go and look at the clock. It just seems to ruin the whole illusion of your dream. There will be a clock, there will be a watch. And it's all distorted because your brain can't make a clock tick properly. And then that's you. You're in control of your dream. Do what you want.
Yep.
I have
you
something
can
kind of...
Sorry, James?
No, it's alright. Shall I go? I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't want to
yeah.
speak over Chris. I kind of have something similar. I don't think you'd class it as lucid dreaming because... so basically, I know you know, but anybody watching Disney, nearly 5 years ago, my mum passed away, and before, like just in life, she would say, if you dream about somebody that's passed away, that's them coming to visit you, and I'd be like, all right, well, you need to lay off the crack. That's a bit weird. But since she passed away, I'm like, oh no, it turns out that's true because I can tell the difference between when I'm having a dream about my mum and when she's coming to visit me in a dream, if that makes sense. And I know a lot of people won't believe it, but honestly, I can tell the difference. Anyway, sometimes I'll have these dreams or whatever, and she'll be there. And as soon as I acknowledge that it's impossible for her to be there because she's dead, I get sucked out. It's literally like, you know, in a film where someone like gets, say, sucked into the past or something, and the screen goes weird. It literally looks like that in the dream. I had one in particular where she was just in what was my living room, but wasn't my living room because it was a dream living room. And I was going, how are you here? What are you doing here? And she was like, I'm just here and I'm hungry. And she just kept telling me that. And I was like, but you can't be here. And as soon as I said, you can't be here, you died, I got sucked out and I woke up. So there's something weird going on in the dreams where as soon as I acknowledge it, and I'm trying to, like, in the dreams not acknowledge it now, because I know in the dream that if I acknowledge it, I won't be able to talk to her anymore. But I don't know what any of that is, but it's weird anyway.
it's absolutely true, Jay. I've actually did a song all about it. I'll play that, and then we're going to, if you've got, anyone's got any questions, this is the chance to ask Chris or Jay a question. This is the multiverse of sleep, which is exactly what Jay's talking about.
See my fallen comrade in the multiverse of sleep. What was once a nightmare is just somewhere we now meet. We meet, we greet, we speak, we reminisce and digest. Wake up before you get to tell me why you faked your own death. Nothing dead about the memories you sprinkled in your wake. The stardust in your footprints, the gusto in your flames. Nothing dead about the memoirs they don't see fit to print, but they don't seem fit to live to me. They don't live, they exist. They cast a stone of judgment from the safety of the lair. They lay inside the shell. Oh, you live on in a prayer. You live on in the truest anecdotes of our time. And you now live on in anyone who tolerates this rain. Last night the skyline crouched down, looked me dead in the eye. A dark cloud motioned to me that you were doing fine. Cosmic reassurance is all I have to mend me. At least these hallucinations recently got friendly. Chinese whispers, shape-shifting through oxygen, morphing into something that is nothing of the origin. People act like they know you and make dangerous assumptions. Try to rewrite certain history when memory malfunctions. There's not many left who are in our class, so it's only right that I raise this glass. My friend, my witness to 10,000 of our stories. Nowadays nobody truly, really knows me, but I'm grateful that we met. And it's great we sometimes speak when I see my fallen comrade in the multiverse of sleep.
educate our children to take their place in the economies of the 21st century. How do we do that? Given that we can't anticipate what the economy will look like at the end of next week. Every country on Earth is trying to figure out how do we educate our children so they have a sense of cultural identity and so that we can pass on the cultural genes of our communities while being part of the process of globalization. How do we square that circle?
You call that radio?
Makes coherent sense.
She called that Radio TV. We're live with Chris and Jay. I'll bring them back on in a little second, but just to tell you what's happening tomorrow night. Tomorrow night we have Joy France. Joy France decided at the age of 63 she couldn't be bothered being a teacher anymore. She wanted more, and she became a battle rapper. An actual battle rapper at brutal underground battle leagues. She's appeared in TED Talk. She's got a film about her as well. An amazing story. Tune in tomorrow night, 7 o'clock for Joy France. Saturday night, we have Amelia Baylor, live from Capture Works. Sunday, we've got Creative Matters, live from Capture Works. And on Monday, we've got Ashley Crossan, just announced as well. And what else is happening next week? In fact, I'll tell you since there's just a few of you here. What else is happening? We've got, Monday's Ashley. Tuesday, bow ties and a llama. A woman called Celia is going to tell us why you need to put bow ties on a llama. Real thing. It's a real thing. Wednesday, we've got the Songwriting Seeds takeover for Music Broth. That's Becky Wallace doing something. Rosie Bands, I think, as well. I'm not really sure, but it's Becky Wallace, it's Rosie, it's Music Broth, it's Songwriting Seeds. It'll be good. Thursday is you've got All Get Talent with Auntie Barry and Sarah. They did you might remember Sharon has been here since the start. A few you have probably. Your All a Vision, which was a kind of a parody of Eurovision Song Contest we did back in, I think, April, something like that. It was a good laugh. It's on YouTube. Look it up, Your All a Vision. Well, this is a You've All Get Talent with Auntie Barry. It's a talent competition. If anyone would like to pre-record the thing and send it in, you can do so. And then, yeah, we've got hundreds of stuff happening next week. I'm going to bring Chris and Jay back on. I've got... once upon a time, there was a big forest, and in the forest there lived a bobby. His name was a pubertal moped.
Even if I couldn't see that was Will Johnson, I would have known that was Will Johnson.
It was Will Johnson. Colette's asking, what if the clock is melted, Marky? Yeah, that's if the clock is melted, it means you're sleeping, unless you're on 2CB or something, because that can also mean that. Nicolette would like to talk about the Bob. So for anyone who's just joined us, Chris is in a band with Nicolette called the Herron Bob Trotters. Jay, are you in the band as well? Sorry,
I'm their Bez. I don't have any talent.
The Bez of the Bob Trotters. That's not true at all. You've got lots of talent. You've all got talent. In fact, do you want to be on the talent show next week? It's with Auntie Barry and Sarah. It should be a good laugh.
I actually had an idea for it, but I can't. I don't know what to do because it takes. I need to be Freddie Mercury for it, and that takes like about 4 hours to become Freddie Mercury. For anybody that's seen me on Halloween,
we'll just do it.
It'll be fun, but it takes a lot. Okay.
Yeah. Unless you're really busy. Unless you're going to a festival or going to clubbing or something. Right. There's not really much. Yeah.
Well, I'm in tier 3, so I'm in North Ayrshire, so I can do more than the rest of these.
Oh, that's right. You can actually go to cafes and stuff. It's quite interesting that in England, tier 3 is the worst one. So just a wee extra bit of complication between the Scottish and English governments just working in harmony there, where the tiers mean different things across the border. Ian Diamond says, just joined. This is exactly as I had expected it to be.
Fuck up, Diamond.
Malcolm says, yes, DMT is something special. Petra saying the government are asking how the COVID lockdowns are affecting our dreams. Is that a question or a what is that?
So there was supposed to be a thing that a lot at the start, especially in lockdown, that a lot of people were experiencing really vivid dreams, like people that don't usually have such vivid dreams, and it was apparently, I don't really know the ins and outs of it because I'm no smart like Herron is, but it was, I think, something to do with the fact that what we've all been experiencing, we've technically been going through a sort of grief period and the sort of denial and the whatever the other ones are. I should be an expert at grief given what I just said a minute ago, but so it's like a trauma response that that you end up having. That it's like a side effect of a trauma response that you have these mad dreams. But I just have mad dreams anyway, so I didn't know the difference until I seen a lot of people on Twitter and that saying, is anybody else having vivid dreams? And apparently it's a thing.
That's interesting. I mean, I suppose it's just been people. There was a lot of people getting furloughed. Maybe people had more time to think and sleep longer as well because maybe they weren't having to get up. I don't know. But I suppose it maybe goes back to that collective consciousness thing because everybody's worried about the same things or similar things.
Well, it's imagination. People are being left with their imaginations. They're not working, so their imaginations are running riot. I mean, dreams are a very, very, very strange thing. Anybody knows that. Anybody that's ever had a weird dream knows that. Einstein used, creative flow, where you're in a zone where you feel like a conduit, where the information or the art is coming through you. Creative people experience this a lot. Writers, musicians, artists, all of them. It's to do with dreaming as well. Einstein used to let himself doze off, right? And he held a ball bearing in his hand above a copper bowl. And when he dozed off enough that his hand relaxed, he would drop the ball bearing into the copper bowl and wake him up. And whatever problem he was working on would present itself to him and he would write it down. And he says that's how he came up with all his stuff. He manipulated the dreaming space. And many, many geniuses and great men throughout history have done this. Newton did it. A lot of people do it. Creative flow, dreaming, it's all interlocked. So people are just sitting around doing nothing and their imaginations are running wild. So yeah, and it will have something to do with the collective conscious too, of course, yeah.
I always try and do it in the morning if you can. Go writing. I don't really look at it till later on, so I can't really be sure how good it is. I know there's definitely... some of it's been released before, but there just seems that there's just this nice moment for the first 10 minutes of the day where you seem to be still sort of in tune with something else, and like I say, the imagination's just running riot, which is obviously great for writing. Petra says she's going to do the copper ball. It's the DMT. Neurons going crazy. Petra's going to try it. Will says go to bed hungry and your brain creates a massive amount more DMT than if you're full. Strange factoid of the day. What if you're full of cheese though? Is cheese not mess with your dreams? I've heard that. Because there was a myth busted that cheese gives you bad dreams, and that's not actually true at all. The cheese just makes you dream more. That's my understanding. And we've got Colette says I could do anything. Ian Diamond says fuck up Jay. And Nicolette was experiencing loads of horrible dreams during lockdown. Weird and horrible dreams. It's all good. It's all positive now. We're going to end on a positive note. I think in summary we can say there's a lot of stuff we know and there's a lot of stuff we don't know. Would you agree with that?
I know
the mark of true intelligence is knowing that you know fuck all. The more you know, the more you learn, the less you understand. For every mystery you solve, 7 more mysteries present themselves. We know fuck all. The smartest minds of our time know fuck all. We have our best guesses. You know, it's a mysterious universe.
Absolutely brilliant, Chris. Thank you very much, Jay. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
I will see you all tomorrow night for Joy France in the house at 7 o'clock. I'll see you then. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Yeah, here. 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yo, this is Charlie Tuna from Jurassic 5 live and direct here in Glasgow, Scotland, and you call that radio?
Upon you, we are here to tell the people that we hear you. One God will not allow us as people of conscience to lose our morale. We see the crimes of this government, how they support